Inforunners, I'm Execute, joined by Algared, who got here eventually. He got here. He made it.
I did.
3 alarms in.
2 alarms in. I'm here. I'm alive. That's the main thing. Execute was starting to worry, I'm sure.
I was like, well, I was literally just saying to you before, I was literally about to go, oh, he's not coming, I'm just going to start without him and he can turn up when he turns up. And then just before I changed the screen to the solo stuff, where his camera didn't come up, but the software he uses changed. And I went, oh, that means he's there. I just waited, and then about 2 minutes later, he joined in Discord. So, yeah, it's pretty funny.
But my camera's not bad for turning on, but the third-party system I need to get the camera to work.
Yeah, pain in the butt. I don't miss it at all.
You know exactly what it's like. You used to use it yourself.
Yeah, pain in the backside. But that's all that was available at the time. You know, we've kind of... I'm sure there's other content creators have gone through a similar thing. Oh, Arcane Dojo, thank you for the tier 1 sub. For 5 months. Yeah, appreciate it. Actually, I was looking at a thing before. It actually shows us the most used emoji, and we have a spaceman. It's kind of like a helmet.
Yep.
Spanning thing. I know you've seen it. 376 times in the last month. So yeah, pretty crazy.
So what you're saying is the most popular of our
But it's been the cat one a lot as well. But I keep deleting them and redoing the cat ones because I find little errors with it. Like, you know what I'm like. So I just keep I delete it and re-upload it a lot. People probably don't know, but I've edited that like 6 or 7 times. So yeah. I have to say thank you to Pete while he's here as well. He helped us out with a transition issue. So you know when we do this, hang on. I'll come back though. Hold on. Right, so when we do that, it was the sound wasn't working properly, and Pete came in and actually showed me how to fix it. So now we can talk quiet transitions and it won't cut our voice off. So I do appreciate him showing me that during the week. And then he left me hanging on the call. He goes, "Oh, one more thing before I go," and then just I'm like, what's this one more thing? I'm like, you son of a bitch! He gets me good every time. He's very good at it. So yeah. But
person knows when you used to do your answering machine back in the 80s. You used to go, someone would ring and you go, "Hi, how you going?"
Yeah. I've done that to my honey. Got it really good.
Leave a few minutes and go, "Oh, you better leave a message. I'm not actually here."
Yeah.
So you'd answer the phone and say, "Is that really you?"
Oh, you get people going, "Wait, you're not there?" That'd be the message and shit. Like, so yeah. But yeah. Anyway, he collected his favor back pretty much straight away. Like he, no favor returns. He just calls in his shit straight away.
Yep.
So yeah. All right, so we do have a couple things to go over though. So let's go over the Foundation Festival. This dropped today. They let us know in advance though, so we saw some of this coming. Pretty much the same Foundation Festival. I'm just gonna cut to the chase.
Yep.
You get some kind of rewards. So there's a couple of skins, and some new items, new players, which is kind of cool to see some stuff for the actual new players, which is great. But down here, they're selling some shit. Surprise, surprise. And I think it's about 50-50. As in the ships that are up for grabs.
Yep.
So we've got the Arrow, C1 Spirit, the Caterpillar, all good. The Cutlass, all good as well, up to those 4. And then this is where it starts to get a bit more niche. So Cutlass Red is still very good for the missions at the moment. I know a lot of the bunker people use this still. And this is where it starts to go. So Hornet, I know you and I can't really get behind that one, especially now that it's $175, which is lunacy. Gladius, still very good for combat. So that's a much better purchase. Like, just so much cheaper. Prospector is good, and then this is where they start to lose me. So the Razor, I can't really get behind that, and then the Valkyrie. But one thing I will say is, as you go through the list, and the Vulture's the last one, they have hit all the starting stuff. So everything that you can possibly do in a profession is represented. So that's really nice to see. Obviously, it doesn't speak to all tastes, but then it should. Well, sorry, I should rephrase that. It doesn't speak to some of my tastes, but it speaks to all tastes, which I think is really important.
Well, I think that's a fair comment, and I don't think you need to correct it and just say it doesn't speak to all your tastes. I think it's true to say it won't speak to everyone's taste.
Yeah,
but it certainly touches on all the types of tastes that people have. So there's the mining, the delivery, the combat, and as you said, it is basically the profession starters of their each of them that is really there, and that makes it really good and
heavily combat weighted as usual. But yeah. I think probably the arrow is probably the best combat one in there as a starting profession at 75. It's on the cheaper end. It's still a very good ship, but where I can't get behind the Hornet as an example because that's $100 more. But is it really $100 more ship? I would agree. I would disagree with that statement, considering like back in the day. I know it's not now, but that's almost a Spirit, and that's almost a Cutlass, right? For the difference. Well, I don't know about you. I'd rather spend $10 more and get a Cutlass and an arrow than just get a Hornet, right? And I think that kind of proves my whole point. And I think most people in chat would agree with us on that.
Well, yeah, I without reading chat or checking chat, I'm just having a quick look. Yeah, no, they're just saying hi at the moment. Chris saying YouTube says, F7 Mark II must be for PvPers to upgrade the F7 Mark II through. Yeah, I don't see what you're saying there, Chris. I'm sorry.
But again, it's the cargo variant. It's not even the F7A or anything like that. So it's essentially the $125 version that they upgraded for $50, which wasn't required in my book. But
I honestly cannot get behind a Mark II, a Hornet Mark II. No. It is. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say the Hornet Mark II is a steal in the same category as a Cutlass.
Yeah, it's getting there.
That's where I'm putting it.
Well, look at all the ships that it bypasses just on this page alone, and then I'm going to be honest. Let's put it at the same price. There's a Vulture at the same price, and look at how much more ship you get for that. I would argue it's probably twice as much ship.
Yep.
And again, this is in game. They're both in game. And I'd also argue, well, you probably get more in some cases. Like if I go back to, well, there's the Prospector. I think you get more with that.
Well, let's say 175.
Yeah.
Almost. You could probably pick yourself up that and an Aurora ES, maybe just for.
Yeah. But again, you're going to be able to do combat and cargo and all that. Like, there's no internals on that thing, and all you get, and I know people come back, oh, it's got this cargo thing, but that cargo is just, it's nothing. It's I think it's 2 SCU off the top of my head. I'm going to be honest, I haven't gone and looked it up. It might have been
SCU.
Yeah, it's minuscule. It's tiny as tiny.
It was on the original ad for the Hornet FC, F7C. It was the cargo variant was big enough for a guy to go for an ice cream run. He went shopping for ice cream. That's what he came back with.
Yeah, it's 2 SCU. There you go.
Oh, so, 2. There you go.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it then upgraded it to 2, but yeah, it just.
It was minuscule. It was
yeah. It's a side grade which should have been offered as an alternative in game, and the F7A should be the main staple. At $175 for an F7A, this would be a slightly different discussion, right? I can start to get behind that because it's the military variant, blah blah blah, la di da. But no,
the fact that it was a upgrade.
I think the main reason you and I are talking about this is these sales are pitched at new players. That is not a good way to bring in new players with a ripoff. And that's why this, like, I can go through all the others and I can sit here and I can justify, right? I can justify all those, even at 375, I can justify that. But I can't justify that because that is a ripoff.
Effectively $125 ship.
Yeah.
Really? It really is just the F7 Mark 1.
And if you look at it in a gameplay perspective, you are not getting any more gameplay in that other than the 2 SCU containers over the other 2 combat offerings that are there.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, CIG, if you are listening.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, this is your second strike. You've really ballsed it up. You ballsed it up with the steel, in my opinion. It was just an absolute off for what it is.
Yep.
And you've gouged with the F7 Mark II.
Yep. And
I don't, yeah. I'll leave it there. My frustration and my disappointment and annoyance.
So Darkside Gamer in chat is pointing out that we are definitely in a drought, and yeah, we are. We are. So July, August are the 2 most droughty months of the year, and this is usually here and probably like January. We only ever see the hardcore people. These are the most dedicated Star Citizen fans, and we talk about this whenever it comes up. So, yeah, if you're here watching, consider yourself a hardcore.
Definitely August is dry period because that's where everything just goes. We're saving it for CitizenCon. Yeah. So,
and you've only got to kind of. I was even surprised how much they talked on ISC about the cargo stuff, because that is the essential meat of that patch. It is a very big fundamental change, and I've been looking at it the last couple of weeks and playing it. And being an Evo is definitely more like what I remember, like testing games out being, like the bugs and stuff like that. Way more than the PU ever has been. So
here's a conspiracy theory for you.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking back to the comment where on Reddit, don't ask me questions, it's not out yet. But and they said this was recorded several weeks ago. Had it been ready to go out, we would have been getting that video after it had been released.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that it was so buggy that we've got the video before the actual gameplay, which I think is what made it go. Certainly, what made me go, oh, that was refreshing. Rather than going, oh yeah, we've played that. Yeah, we know about that.
Yeah.
Now, I know, in Evercard you see stuff and it's different. But in terms of the wider gameplay, it's what makes it refreshing and different. So yeah. All
right, the bot is up. I forgot. Honestly, did forget. Sorry.
That's okay. And we do have a whole pile of questions that I ripped from the premiere of Our Thoughts video. So we'll go through those as well. So
yeah,
I think about 8 or 9 comments or questions that are related to that. So
yeah, the usual spiel. Stream lives and dies on questions. So yeah, get some questions in, and we will answer them as promptly as possible, but as detailedly as possible. What do you think? I know you've already seen this, but how did you find my thumbnail? By the way, did you enjoy it? Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so he subtly hinted at me what I should have done, and he's dobbed himself in for what the next thumbnail is going to be about himself. So yeah, look forward to that one when it comes along.
Yeah, I told him he looked like
don't. Why do you spoil everything? Why do you spoil everything? Man, no Christmas presents for you. Just you'll tell everyone what they're getting.
I haven't had one yet.
Every time. I can't have anything nice. He just ruins everything.
No. That's why you can't have nice things.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But everyone was knowing I was doing, fish tank.
Well, now you've ruined it twice. Oh my god.
Yep.
I deliberately talked over you so they couldn't hear, and now you.
Yeah.
Doesn't learn. Doesn't learn.
No.
I'll just have to do an address or something differently then. Yeah.
You do, and you are dead. You will be dead to me.
That's all right. I'll get you back somehow. Don't you worry.
Yep. Oh look, that is a scary thought.
Yes.
Because in October we've got that week of where we'll be in
pillow. I could just pillow. No.
Yeah, just hold it down.
But yeah. But you're booked actually. You booked your flights. I believe yesterday or the day before. So you're all set to go.
Yep.
I think he did quite well
100%.
price-wise too. He only paid $100 more than me, but he's going 2 places, so I think he did fairly well.
3, because I've got.
Oh no, 3.
Europe
That's right.
as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But you,
I've worked the tax write-off in there as well, so I'll do some Indonesian language.
Yep.
And in-country stuff, which is always suggested that if you're a language teacher, you should do country.
Yep.
So I'll be in country for a couple of weeks before CitizenCon.
Yep.
And
I was joking with him. He should turn up with a sunglasses tan. That'd be kind of funny.
So yeah.
I'm just trying to bring up. They posted a tweet that I'm trying to find. The other day, where the hell is it? They actually posted a preview. Actually, someone posted in a thing. Oh, I gotta find it again. They've essentially posted a preview of the new Saber, and that's what I wanted to talk about with you. But I gotta probably find it at quite short notice. Nope. Can't find it. God, man, I can find the stuff from last week, but I can't find. Oh, there it is. That's it. This one here. Right, let's flick it over. This one. So it's just very quick. Yeah, blink and you'll miss it, Algared. It's that quick. Yeah. But if I go back here, I did manage to grab it. There we go. It's kind of a grey blur. But yeah, I don't know.
Are they billing that as a racer?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if it's a misdirection, right? But I've got fors and against. I think we can kind of rule it down to being like, because this is the thing. Like, when the last one came out on Twitter, everyone on the Twitter post was saying, "Oh, it's a QED, it's a QED, it's a QED." John Crew then comes out that week and says, "Oh, this is not what everyone thought it was. That's the next one." Right, vague enough to just let everyone hang themselves. But everyone kind of made the assumption that it was the QED because on Twitter, everyone thought it was a QED. Now this drops and it's like going through the racetrack in Hurston and people are like, oh, it's a racer. Now, if you take the name that is leaked, which is Pedigree, as in Pedigree Falcon, it works for both. Peregrine. Right? So the Peregrine Falcon is apparently the fastest bird in airspeed. Now that works for a racer, does it not? But also, apparently the way it attacks its prey is it swoops down and grabs things, just like a QED, pulls things out and stuff like that. So I think it's made it worse, not better, to say the least. So, yeah, it's a hard one to kind of really think about. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? What do you lean towards if you had to take a guess?
I think a racing variant or a racing using it in racing should work for theoretically should work for the Razor as well, because they're supposed to be very fast. So
well, I've had a few people. You mentioned that a few people say that it's too big to be a racer. So what's your thoughts on that? I think that's kind of a bit.
Given that I see people race 890 jumps and retaliators and C2, C1s. No.
Yeah, we know there are Santucky Eye races, and I would argue that that's probably bigger than that. The Cartoal races, there's, and I'm talking just lore here and 3D models that we have in the hangars and stuff like that.
It depends on the type of racing you're doing. If you're doing the little sprint.
Chris points out 350R. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
If you're looking for sprints, then yeah, you probably want to go for smaller ships. But the bigger ships also give you greater endurance and greater length and greater speed. And I know that when we do Crux Cup, there are some ships that will only need to refuel once. If you take if you're doing a Crux Cup track, I think it's Lorville. If you're doing the Lorville Hamani track, the P72 or P52 would need to refuel, I think, almost every lap.
Yeah.
Almost every second lap. An Aurora can refuel every fourth lap. I think a Reclaimer and an 890. I think the 890 doesn't need to refuel. I don't think the Reclaimer does. There's some ships that just don't. They can do the track and maybe refuel once, and others need to refuel like every time. When you're doing 15 or 16 laps on that track within the hour in the smaller ships, you're refueling 5-6 times.
Yeah.
Bigger ships can do that whole hour on one tank of fuel, but maybe only do 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah.
So, but people are racing in all sides of the ship. And I've got, I know people will say you've raised the idea of the endurance racing and the large ships for that.
Yeah.
And I don't see a problem with that idea because.
Well, I don't see it as a new concept. I probably most likely got it from the discussions you and I have had over the years.
Yeah, because I know that we've always, like in the Crux Cup, we've always had an open class where you could take any ship, and now it's even become more streamlined. We've even got the industrial classes and the the heavy classes, and I think the last one we even had luxury with the 890 jump having its own class, just because.
Yeah.
So people will fly and race anything. And straight, you even get in our mod A, you get truck races.
Yeah. So
and multiple truck races. So yeah.
So real quick on this specifically, a couple of things that you can see, and it's hard to point out because I've got an alt tab between the two, but there is the actual hole. It goes all the way out, so it's essentially almost like a bat wing design. Like it's like 3 separate pieces. My initial, there's not much to look at, right? Because it's all blurry, but that almost looks like it's the normal Saber mated with the Saber Comet kind of paint. And you've got the same black and red lighting, yet you've got the blue engine trails.
It also looks like you got the holes in the back like the Raven.
No, so the actual holes where the Raven is are actually blown out. They're not holes, they are literal complete gaps.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was, and that you could take from the preview. They had another preview on Twitter, which was green, and they always deliberately pick a color that completely throws you off, right? So what I found is they don't just invert it; they usually invert it and then change it completely. So so the last one came out that was green.
Yeah.
Show me what's green about that. There's not a single color of green on it, right? And that's why everyone thought the first one was QED, because they came out and it was black and red. When the actual ship came out, it was red and white. So it was not what you expect. They deliberately try to change it to spice it up. Anyway, all at $2 for super chat. Thank you very much. I think he did a sticker, didn't he? No message. Okay.
No, he just did a like. He just did a thumbs up.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Just saying we can thumbs up it. Well, I'm going to thumbs up it anyway, just because we can. There you go. But thanks all. Look, most appreciated.
I'll give it one as well.
Never expected, never required, but as always, they are. Any super chat, any membership, any bits, bots, or whatever you do on Twitch. Always.
That's how much he knows Twitch. Bits and bots. Yeah. Right. Real quick then, if you had to pick between, well, I know what you're going to say, but if you've got a racer or a QED, what adds more to the game? And I think it's got to be the QED,
yeah? Ultimately, yes. In the immediate time, no.
I'd agree with both of those statements. Yes.
Like immediately, racing, there's more racing tracks than you can use them, and so that would make sense.
Yep.
A QED version, definitely in the future. Could the QED version be a fast ship that could be used in racing? Yeah. So, again, is it 2 variants? Is it or is it just one? And that I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them to do 2, because that's 2 different ships they can sell.
Yeah. So the other part of this is, I think this is possibly the most Raven-like of the new stuff, right? I know a QED is not 2 EMPs, but I think that's the closest you're going to get. I think this is the one that would satisfy the Raven lusters. I don't know how to put that. That sounds a bit weird, but you get what I'm trying to say, right?
Although I wonder if part of a Raven lust is the fact that you can't get it. So that FOMO or envy.
100% what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, look at little things like the Mustang and the Dragonfly Star Kitten and all that. It's I want because I can't have. Well, what's the old saying? People want what they can't have. Literally that.
Grass is always greener.
Yeah.
Yeah. And CIG, if you're not under a condition of the license with the Raven, with brand who brought it out, and
Intel have been giving away codes for it lately. DePoets has been pushing them. So
you know, if they've been doing, if you're able to give out the Raven or redo the Raven, just redo it. You know, it's the same with things like the Star Kitten, which I don't think you can do because I think you probably there was probably a cease and desist for stop giving this one away, stop using this kitten. I don't know, I'm just guessing there.
Yeah, it was and they're very defensive of their what is it?
Hello Kitty.
Hello Kitty, yeah, they're very defensive. That's why I don't think we ever saw anything exactly like that again.
Yeah, too close to home, and I get that because I gather that CIG is probably.
Yeah. So when do you think we're getting this?
Ooh,
because I'm gonna tell you pretty simply. Now the Foundation Festival started, right? Now I don't know. I don't. They did tell us in the email. I could go look it up. Pete might be able to not tell us because he got the email as well. But let me go have a quick look. Right. Right. I think it will be after this. So the 19th, right? So it is only going for a week. Sorry for the email noise. But yeah, I was checking my email. So if it goes for a week, I would expect, because we're doing a free fly for a week, they won't want to touch anything, right? And I would then say, I think that means 324 is at least a week away minimum. And I think it's got to be the 324 ship of that patch. Yep. Now, is it the only ship? We'll find out. But I think that's definitely when it's coming.
Yep. No, I think I'd go with that.
Yeah. And if they wanted to sell another ship, it could be in that patch, but it just unlocks a month later or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, look at it this way. The 2 skins we got for the graffiti stuff, that was found in the leaks way back at the start when 323 came out. And that was like, what, February, March, whatever, you know? So they sat there for almost 3 months untouched. So I think it will be a very similar thing where this will be the first ship we see, and there'll be some other things in there that we'll kind of learn about, but not know. I still am praying like bloody crazy that the Peregrine is a code name for Falcon, because I think it was on Pissball Pete's stream. You can quote me, Pete, if he was on there and someone went, Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Really well. Yeah, Peregrine Took. So that's going to be its nickname. If they call it the Peregrine, I'm going to call it the Took.
It's going to be called the Took. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So and that's how you stop them from calling it the Peregrine. You meme it into existence. So just if someone says, "Oh, it's the Saber Took," you know what they're talking about, because that's basically.
If I do it as a Peregrine, and then it gets a nickname Took, then CIG need to bring out another ship called the Pippin, because Peregrine and Pippin, they're the two buddies, and
Well, tell me then, would it be another Saber or would it be another Aegis ship? What Aegis ship would it be?
Oh, it'd have to, given that the hobbits were given that they were all hobbits, the four main characters, I would have to say that it'd have to be another Saber. If you're going to if you're going to name it as if you got one that's kind of picked up a Hobbit name and you're making another one to play with the Hobbit. Oh, sorry, it wouldn't be Pippin. That is the nickname that Peregrine gets. Pippin. Yep. It's Merry. Merry is his sidekick. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you got the 4 hobbits. You got Sam, Samwise Gamgee, Samwise Gamgee, Frodo, Merry, and Peregrine. And yeah. So
I'm interested to see
if you've got one named after a hobbit, you kind of need another one to just call Merry and be the sidekick.
I think for those that have been here for a long time, there is not a lot of ships that speak to us anymore, especially for you and me, like with fighters and stuff. But I can see this selling fairly well because, as everything I've stated, it's the closest to the Raven. You don't have to buy a ridiculously expensive hard drive to get one. Blah 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 blah. I'm going to be honest with you, from a look perspective, and I'm not talking about the colors or anything like that. Just the way the wings are cut out, I think that's going to look the coolest of the variants. But
Yeah,
I don't think we'll have to
I
wait too long.
I still like the look
Mm.
of the Raven over the Saber. I don't know why, the standard Saber.
Mm.
And I think it's still better than I think it still looks better than the recent thing they brought out,
The
the
Firebird.
Fire Phoenix.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, if you're going Lord of the Rings on that,
It
the
should have
Firebird.
been. It should have been called the Phoenix.
If you're
Yeah.
giving the Firebird a Lotro name, then it was a Lord of the Rings name, then that's the Gandalf because it's
Mm.
Gandalf Reborn, Gandalf Away.
The Balrog.
That's right, non-Jobs.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we'll have to wait too long. The other one literally only wasn't even a month from when we first saw snippets and sneak peeks till it was out. So I have to assume it's going to be roughly the same type of
Yep.
analogy for this one. So yeah, I'm expecting it when 324 drops. I think it makes logical sense. There was nothing really in the leaks that pointed to this one at all, other than what they've found is the name, which is Pentagram. And I've got to hope and pray that that's a bloody code name because that is a freaking awful name. But yeah, I don't know.
Look, I actually don't mind the name. Peregrine is just a type of falcon. But I think it'd have been better off to have a type of ship or a brand of ship that was called Falcon, and then do all the variants of it, give them different Hawk names or Falcon names.
Yeah,
So,
well, and maybe that's what they're doing. You know, maybe they want to save the name Falcon for something that's cooler. And we've heard that before, like with the cutter and stuff like that. Oh, that name's too cool. We've got to use it on other things. So
I
yeah.
got to use it for something else, not for some little snub ship that goes with a.
Right. I thought there'd be more questions, but we've only got 2 questions. This is gonna be the shortest stream of all time.
No, we've got.
I've got all the ones before that. But get your questions in,
got-
guys. Seriously, if you've got any questions, because there's only 2 from today, and the rest are ones that Algared grabbed yesterday. So yeah, please get some in,
So,
especially if you want them answered.
yeah. So from the premiere of our thoughts on the cargo stuff yesterday, there are a whole pile of questions or comments that seemed relevant for discussion that popped up, and rather than discuss them and type the answers in, I thought, man, I hate typing. So I just cut them out and put them in our question stream. And the first one that came up was from Ryzen. And Ryzen says, do you guys think that it would make sense to have cargo blockades happen randomly all of the time as a formal part of a game, or do you think it's better alone as a specific event?
I think those events are fairly biggish, so to speak. And if you kind of look into everything you and I have looked into, events are kind of going to be tied to events going on in systems, and they are going to be a bit more thematic. And the other thing is, right now we tend to get like even if you look at the missions as a really good example, you get kind of like one line of a mission where if you know how the mission system is going to be built, it is going to be like this webby weavy type of multi-streamy type of thing. So you might go pick up a box and something could happen on that mission that leads the mission into a completely separate mission that's got nothing to do with boxes, right? And there are branching paths and stuff like that. So every time you play, you might then take the exact same name mission again with a completely different outcome. So it's to add to that replayability. Where right now everything is pretty much the same. You can say this is a box mission, this is a multi-box mission, this is a multi-drop-off missions. It's very samey, right? And you can build all those out, test them with us. That's essentially what they're doing. But then what they're going to do is start to weave them together. And you start to weave that together with the AI, the personalities of AI. That's just missions, right? And then on top of that, you put in events and it goes to a completely different level because you can then start to weave that into it as well. And a blockade mission, as an example, it could have different protagonists, antagonists, and different outcomes, different stuff that's got to be transported. And there's just a few of the variables.
Yeah, like you can see this. You can see the same type of mission being applied in Pyro,
Yep.
where UEE or the advocacy
Mm.
are doing the same thing. They've locked down a drug lab.
Yep.
They've captured the stuff. They're taking it off to destroy it. They're doing
Yep.
same type of thing. They're blockading it so you can't come in and do
Yep.
the stuff. So
Yep.
I can see that type of thing. But you may also remember when they first brought out Xenothreat, they were talking about how they wanted to develop missions.
Mm.
They were saying they wanted them to be dynamic, where when certain and within the mission, when certain criteria were filled,
Yep.
that's when it would click over. It wouldn't be it's going to click over on this day. So
Yeah.
it might go that way for a month before it clicked over.
Yep.
And if you've got that type of setup, you could have the same thing as the thing that actually starts the whole dynamic mission. That
Yep.
certain events happen in game, so many happen, boom. You've killed so many of these pirates, they've now gone, right, we're going to blockade you, we're going to stop you.
You could
And so,
even you can even have an event that if it isn't completed triggers another event or it gets
yeah,
worse. You know.
yeah.
So there's a
Well,
whole bunch of things that could pan out.
when you say that, that goes directly to something that Aaron told me back in way back in 2014, and we were talking, and he said, if the Vandal take a system and we leave it and we don't do anything about it, end up flipping into a Vandal system. If we take a Vandal system and we hold it long enough, eventually it'll flip to an Earth system and the UEE will turn up. So that already plays into that idea of what the IG we're looking at for the PU.
Well, it's similar to things that you and I have talked about, because it's these older things that pushes a lot of our thought processes, right? It was like I was saying, imagine in Pyro. You remember, I talked about this about 12 months ago. You'd remember. Imagine in Pyro if the pirates essentially left the one of the stations, someone came in and they took it over, did it all up, fixed it all up, and then it turned into a different faction station that was from outside Pyro, and the pirates could essentially also move into Stanton and take one of those over. The whole thing can become cyclic. And we know they've talked about this because they've talked about wear and tear. They've talked about branding. They've talked about certain looks of certain places, right? So you can actually look at the Stanton space stations and you can look at the Pyro space stations and you can see that there is shared content there. Obviously, you dress them up slightly differently, so you add, broken pieces for the Pyro stuff as they've done, but you can see color. Like again, if you look at just ArtCorp to Hurston to Microtech to Crusader, just taking the elevator, I always use the elevator, right? It's the same elevator, just different lighting, textures, and lights and stuff like that. You can also use that with a wear and tear system just within the elevator. You can see how you get different looks very quickly. A cable here, a cable there, and it changes the entire look. But then all of a sudden, when someone comes in and tidies up, those cables go away. They put a new coat of paint on, and it goes from being one faction to another. We've also seen this with earnables. So they showed different takeaway businesses, and you could earn their different skins and stuff. So if I wanted to be a Kelto delivery driver, I could, or I could be, I believe it was an Asian food one, and I can't remember what it was called, like Li Ping or whatever it was called. Yeah, they had a couple of different ones. But you can start to see where this goes really quickly, right? Yeah.
Yep, 100%. You could see that.
And it leads into everything you and I have been talking about. Like it makes the whole thing dynamic, and it just like again using all these systems to replicate and procedurally generate, and then add artistic, stylic, single layered things. You can see it on all levels. So it's not just space stations; it's cities that are dynamic, it's outposts that are dynamics, space stations are dynamic. Yeah, it's scarily awesome. It really is.
And that also ties in with stuff Chris has said about settlements. When a settlement is going well, you'll have all the shops filled.
Yep.
It'll be clean. There'll be no graffiti. As it goes bad, you'll get the graffiti. You'll get broken windows. You'll get broken this. You'll get cables everywhere. And then you'll get empty shops and all the rest of it. And that stuff Chris has been saying, man, it's as long as I can remember. I can't remember when he hasn't been saying that or hinting at that way back. So
you'll get people that are into the real estate, Algared. I know you kind of hinted at this a little bit yourself, but they'll come into an area that they reckon is probably about to have a boom. They'll buy everything up, redo everything, make it all brand new, spend a bit of money, and then someone will come and go, oh, this is great, and they'll move in, and then it'll just snowball, and then that's where the entrepreneurs are going to make a lot of money, like real estate investment, essentially.
That's what drove you to
what is
Magnus.
What is it? Buy cheap, sell high. I believe that's how it works.
Well, that's basically what Magnus did in Magnus. Magnus was going broke. The industry had gone. And they moved in, and basically, they're seen as the saviors of Magnus. They may have a horrible rep everywhere else, but they are the saviors of Magnus.
Yeah.
So yeah. Ryzen followed up his question. So I think in answer to your question, yeah, I think they'll keep them dynamic.
Yeah.
Rather than just do individual things. So, but they may, and they may do both. He followed up that question by saying, what do you guys think of the auto load times and prices, and how griefable are the cargo terminals at ground stations?
Yeah, so...
Now,
so what he's talking about there is you can currently at the moment, if you walk over to someone else's, if you're an outpost, you can, if you lower the elevator while they're loading cargo on, you essentially steal their cargo. Yeah. So that's just I think that's just an access issue. That'll be fixed in time. And just like you won't be able to access a console if someone else has accessed it, right? And it'll be theirs for a certain time limit or instances of cargo elevators. Like again, it'll come in time. It's probably just an oversight that they either forgot about, or again, it's tier 0. But there's always going to be things you miss as you make this stuff.
I think they could just leave it and and make it that you can get ripped off. People can steal your cargo while you're there. It ties in with some of the law stories where you got a guy going to a station and he employs a couple of people to help him because he wants to get it off done quick, and they steal his cargo.
Yeah.
So I can see that type of thing happening. But I think you'd also have, if you suddenly have someone rip off your cargo, I expect every ground station or every outpost to have ground defenses of some form at some point.
The other part could be
if you break law, you're going to get,
Well, also, couldn't the cargo be tagged as your property, so they stole it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. The second they steal it, they become outlaws. So the criminal elements or the anti-criminal elements that around the station.
Wouldn't that make an interesting thing where you're a cargo recovery expert? Like a bounty hunting, but for cargo. Like that would be kind of interesting.
A repo man.
Yeah, like literally like a repo man. That'd be funny. Like I could see the dodgy ad now. Like, has your cargo been stolen? Do you need it back in a?
Yeah, who are you gonna call?
Cargo referrals or cargo returners, or I don't know. You'll come up with a name, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Cargo hunters.
All right. So next one was Sol Galaxia, and Sol Galaxia said, "We're making a comment on the video. They were showing saying how a cat would be really great for doing the cargo loading and stuff." And Sol Galaxia said, if they fixed elevators on the cat, then they wouldn't need the tractor, the PTV into it. And she's right. The doors that go down on the cat are supposed to also be the lift that goes down.
I think fixed is the wrong word though, because they've never worked.
Yeah.
If they created them to work.
If they made them so they worked. And one of the problems CIG had early on was the fact they said having a door that goes down kind of conflicts with the pad that you need, the physics pad that you need when it goes up and down. And that was the excuse they gave way back. I don't know if that's still the case or it's just a case now that they haven't done it.
Well, I always had a really cool concept, right, that I thought that could have been really cool with the cat, but I don't know if they'll ever do it, right? So I think most people, and I didn't realize this until years later, right? But you know how essentially it's like an elevator.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's a two-step process. You got to load everything onto the elevator. You put the elevator up, and then you got to load it off onto the ship, right?
Yep.
Now, what if instead of doing that, they made it so the elevator is actually a cargo grid like on the Freelancer? You put it in, it locks on, and then it goes up and rotates sideways, and it just all hangs sideways off inside the ship.
Yeah, that'd be novel. Kind of like a C2. Well, not a C2, a hull.
Yeah, kind of in a way. And it would mean you wouldn't have to load it all the time. And the only down, well, it just basically means if you open it, it comes back out, and you load it on, and then it just folds up and in. So I don't know. Obviously, there's problems with that because of the spinning and stuff, but it could be kind of cool and make it really unique. And it just kind of, I don't know. The reason why it sounded cool to me is visually in my head, it's almost like, well, it's called a caterpillar. It makes it almost a bit like a cocoon. The way it kind of,
Open
I
up.
know that sounds stupid, but like caterpillar cocoon kind of go together. So I
Well,
just, yeah, thought it was kind of cool.
had you been with CIG way back when,
Mm,
and you'd made that suggestion to Chris, I could almost, I feel,
mm,
I may be putting words into his mouth or into other CIG employees' mouths, but I could see that getting traction because we know that Chris has always liked the moving parts. You
mm,
always like to see the bits on the ships move, and because that makes the ships feel more dynamic, and
mm.
that would certainly be unique
Well, you've
for the cat.
also got two doors, right?
Yeah,
So it doesn't have to
that
go
goes.
all the way across. Yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
just the other thing would be is the way you could do it is just have it so the roof comes up slightly or something like that, or
but
is the roof a part of the doors? There's so many ways you could get
well,
around it.
the advantage of doing the way you've suggested is because it's not filling up the whole lot.
Yeah.
Because they've got two doors.
Yeah.
The height doesn't need to be as far out, so you would be able to do. You'd
Mm,
be able to get more in without it clipping into the roof or
yeah.
something. It's a problem I have with the Connies.
Well, the other
Like,
problem is you've got the gangplank on one
yeah,
side, so it only really works for one door, not both. You'd essentially, to fix the
you
problem, you'd have to move the
change
gangplank to the center.
it. Yeah, you just change the
Mm,
gangplank to the center. But it's the same problem I have with a Connie. Like you look at a Connie, it's got this massive, this two-story storage area.
mm,
How do you get how do you get your cargo fully in, and then how do you get it fully out?
mm,
Because the cargo lift only goes down one level. So you fill it up, it goes up, it's level with the top. How do you fill it up to the roof like we get when we fully load it? And so for me, that's always been an issue with the Connie. It just
mm,
doesn't work. Looks great, but
mm.
I always have that. How do I load it?
Did you read over there in Twitch what Pissball P said? The fixes for the
Uh,
caterpillar.
First fix for the Caterpillar is unlocking the command module, flying it over to your ironclad, and yes, well, it's what I've suggested.
Mm.
What I suggest, you almost ditch your Caterpillar and just take the cab and just load it up to another.
It's essentially why we need to know about the modules, because it has now been so trodden on by the ironclad. If you were a cargo person, and the way they keep talking about the caterpillar and the caterpillar being cargo, blah blah blah, why would you even look at the caterpillar anymore from a cargo perspective? The ironclad has just taken all of it. And you got to
Yeah.
look at this on a price perspective and the fact that it's a game, right? Caterpillar might fall into this niche, right? It may well
Hmm.
fall into this niche, but it's the same pad size. The ironclad probably costs more to run. It probably isn't as good as in atmosphere, but then again, there's no real VTOLs on the caterpillar either, so they're basically in a very similar vein. You've probably got a cheaper running cost. It looks to be roughly the same crew, but that's all minimal stuff, because if it's a cheaper running cost, you're also delivering more cargo, so you're going to make more money, so it covers that cost anyway. So it's
I think the biggest difference between
mm,
the Caterpillar and an ironclad as just a straight up cargo variant is the fact that the Caterpillar's individual separate containers
oh yeah,
enable you to
yeah,
do the totally different types of cargo.
yeah. But
Whereas the ironclad can't do that. And that's probably the
yep.
big advantage.
And that's why we really need to know about those modules
Yeah.
more than anything, because that ship is in real trouble at the
Well,
moment. And again, our grid.
hmm,
The other thing, as you all know, yes, you can customize each module, but also if you are really in a bind, you can give up some of the cargo space to get a special container that does the same thing. So,
yep.
how valuable is that?
Yeah.
We don't quite know yet, but I would argue it's not as valuable as um paying real world money for ships.
I would also like to think that the way we've got
Yeah.
that on the ships at the moment, we've got the ability to jettison cargo, to
Mm,
dump your cargo. I would hope because the Caterpillar has cargo modules. But when you jettison cargo, you'd actually have an option to jettison module 1, module 2, so you could actually surrender only some of your cargo maybe and get away rather than all your cargo. But maybe that'll change down the track where you can jettison certain percentages of cargo. But the Caterpillar really does need things answered, especially since they've said the cab on the Caterpillar is interchangeable with the cab on the Ironclad. Like, is the Ironclad really a Mark II of a Caterpillar? That's the type of thing you're getting to, and are you going to wipe out the Caterpillar as a ship down the line?
It also, what I'd love to see is more Drake ships where the command module works. Right?
Yeah.
And I know I've talked about this with you, and I've talked about a few other people, but I am more and more thinking at CitizenCon that we're going to see a Drake Corvette, and we got the last couple of ships we've got at CitizenCon were large ships. We have never got a large ship. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I'm correct on this, but we have never seen a large ship for sale at Invictus. The fact that we saw a large ship for sale there, you'd have to assume the ship at AIE, aka CitizenCon, will be bigger. Oh, not CitizenCon. It would be AIE actually, right? I correct myself. Would be the bigger ship. So if that's the case, if we've seen a large, we're either getting another large or a capital at coming there. And I would argue, like seeing where the Kraken came out and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think would get a Drake Corvette at CitizenCon. I think that makes a lot of sense for the hype. You tell me if you think I'm wrong there.
Well, Drake Corvette has been pushed, has been suggested from within CIG. I think even John Crew was the one who first started that. But
yeah, it says CitizenCon last year. Yeah, John
Crew is troll. He does he does tease things and play the game, and that's fine, But yeah, so yeah, look, I'm happy for anything that comes out, to be honest. Whether it's even if it's Drake, even if it's Crusader, and I hate Crusader ships because of the endless corridor.
But I think going with what John Crew said, he said there literally needs to be more ships between the Caterpillar and the Kraken for them to build the Kraken, because someone was asking me at the after party when are you going to build the Kraken, and he said this, and then someone overheard him and turned around and said, hang on, does that mean you're going to make a Drake Corvette? And he goes, and the thing I heard back from 4 different people was his smile, his smirky smile that said, yes it does. And the way they all talked about that smile told me that they had all heard exactly the same thing at exactly the same time, which told me it was real.
Now, it could also be that, just as typical backers, they were only hearing what they wanted to hear, but when you get it from 4 different people,
and it's exactly the same way described, it went down that way. So yeah,
of course, there is that bit we don't know, is whether those 4 people actually talk to each other and then shared their ideas. If they were totally in isolation and came up with that, then you 100%. But if they've gone, then maybe.
Maybe it is the greatest con of all time. But it makes logical sense. And again, I think it points to what you and I were saying, like what would be the next family of ships. And I think if we see it at a new ship, like just the way the Ironclad came out, it's unlike anything they've done before. Again, a large ship is not normally what you get at Invictus, right? And the fact that it was a large ship, which would tell, they've gone, all right, so we've got a large and a capital. How are we going to sell these? Oh, well, we'll put the small one at Invictus and the biggest one at AIE, or CitizenCon. And
I think it's even more. There's even more evidence than that. If you look at the three biggest capital ships we've got in game: the Javelin, the Idris, and the Kraken. The Javelin has been done for Squadron 42. The Idris is done. That's Squadron 42. The Kraken, yet been done.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense if you're looking at the next family of ships and they need to build the Kraken.
Yeah.
The Ironclad then kind of signals, I think, the next family of ships that we're working on, and it'll be the larger capital ships or the larger Drake ships, and that means you need something else. You need at least a third ship to make that family ships they're working
Yeah.
on.
You've
So,
also got to look at what Squadron 42 Episode
mm,
two's requirements are, and I have a massive. Well, you and I've talked about this. That's what the
mm,
Polaris is for, right? Why make a Polaris now? What the hell do you get out of a Polaris? Nothing for Squadron for Star Citizen. We don't even technically have server meshing. We know it's coming,
mm,
right? But it's the cart before the horse. You think you'd make sure it's working and then build it. But if you're building it for a single player, that makes a lot more sense. So they're building it now to use in that. And
yeah,
then you start to look at other ships. Well, what other capital ships that we have would you get use of, right? And I go back through the other ones, and I the only one that I can think of besides the Kraken that we don't have, and I don't think it's anywhere near as essential as the Kraken, is the Nautilus. And it'd
mm,
have to be combat related ships, surely, right? So they're not going to go out and build like the Orion or the
yeah,
Arastra or the Endeavor. They don't really lean into that aesthetic, right? The only other one that we know that's out there is the one that we saw in where the Gladius is flying over the top of it,
yeah.
right? And is that ever going to be a playable ship? We know that there are ships that are not playable or vehicles that are not playable, like the Tick Miner and stuff like that. Was that just a set dressing that we're never ever going to see?
Oh, look, I know when. I hope that eventually they sell that because
Yep.
I reckon that's one of those. That tick
Yep.
miner, I swear they'd sell a ton of that because it was.
Mm. Pete.
I can remember back in 2014,
Mm.
everybody you spoke to just wanted the tick miner.
Yeah.
It was just so unique.
Because it was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so
Um,
unique. It was different.
Pete does bring up a good point. They will need the kingship for episode 2 and
Yep.
3. So
Yep.
that will be a massive undertaking.
And that's
Um,
where I think they'll do ships like the driller.
yeah.
You know, they'll do a family of. If they haven't already done them, they'll do that family of
What's
Vandal ships.
now you'd probably know more about this than me, the retribution. Now,
Yeah,
does that ever become a working thing? Like, is that a usable thing, or is it just is that always going to be a set dressing? Like, or is that something that'll be built out for Squadron at some
it
point?
has. Well, I think I vaguely recall seeing, and you'd have to go back and have a look at
Mm,
the old stretch goals, but I think they talked about a battleship being available and the
mm,
type of thing that Chris always said. You know, it's not something we could own, but something we could fly.
yeah.
Is what my impression was of all those stretch goals.
Mm,
And the retribution is the battleship.
yeah.
So
So my brain goes to other places too. What do you do for a second campaign when it comes to ships? Right? And what I mean by that is, right, if we're playing the Arrow, the Gladius, the Hornet, the F8, and a couple other ships that are probably in there, like stuff like that, does it start to go into this weird territory where you become like the rebellion in Star Wars? All of a sudden, are you in a Drake Buccaneer? Are you in a Cutlass? Are you in a Freelancer? What are you doing in those other campaigns that brings other ships in? Or is it literally we've just got all those ships and now we get a whole nother series of different new ships just to fill out a campaign? You start to
you,
see where my brain's going with this kind of straight away, don't you?
does your campaign take on more of
Yeah.
a command area where you're actually directing?
Yeah. Does it become more of a first person shooter? Does it become you know what ships are going to be in that campaign? You have to start the question. Do
Yep.
we get into Zion ships? Do you get into Banu ships? Are you retroactively taking over Vandal ships and going behind enemy lines? Who knows? It probably
It
does
also
everything.
ties
It probably
it
does
also,
everything. Let's be honest, right?
well, I can even remember discussions about Vandal ships and people saying, oh, will we be able to go behind enemy lines? And there was a kind of discussion of, you know, the friend foe recognition. But there was also the comment about if you're in a Vandal ship, you may be able to get closer because you look the same,
Mm.
but eventually they're going to shoot you and blow you
Well,
up.
well,
So
my
that's the same type of thing, isn't it?
my point being though is how do you break up 3 campaigns that are essentially gonna like it's gonna get a bit samey if like okay I start out in my Gladius and now work up to this and now work up to this. If it's essentially the same 3 ships, well not the same 3 ships but the same 3 series of ships over 3 campaigns, that's gonna be a bit
Yeah.
shitty and they have to spice it up somehow. And I'm just sitting here kind of having this realization that they've got a whole myriad of ships that they can draw on. Does it go into multi-crew? Are you in one section, you're in, you're driving the hammerhead, and in another section you're in a turret in the hammerhead? Who
Yeah.
knows?
No, there's so many things they can do. But that's, I do think that down the track we are going to get the other races. We'll get Tavaran, we'll get Zion, we'll get the. I can certainly see the Tavaran being developed and ships for the Tavaran coming out with the Tavaran Civil War. Because I think I think that's been pegged enough or hinted at enough that it's coming.
Yeah.
When it's coming, I can't tell you. Whether it's just going to be a PU event or whether it's just going to be a whole campaign of you discovering Tavaran culture and as a Tavaran, and then deciding which way you're going to lean, or being a human discovering the stuff and which side are you going to support. I can do that being a campaign, so.
Adding that to the discussion, Algared, like you can see, again, Tavaran tech comes in and gets added into the fold and added to those ships, maybe in the second episode, right? But then does it go the other way, where that outside threat that you and I know about, right, that we're not going to give away spoilers, but people that know, that outer threat, does that mean the Zion and the Banu come in and join the others, and it's this us galaxy versus their galaxy type of thing, and it's, like, does the needs of the many, like, type of thing, ban like the enemy I know is better than the enemy I don't know, that type of thing. So it could be really interesting. I just don't know how it's going to pan out. I don't think we do, but I think they've planned it. I think with all the things you've seen in the star map and the long term and all that, I think they've planned for this. I think it's always been a part of it since the get-go. Man, they've been writing lore for over 10 years now. Like, they must have had this worked out for a long time. And I am looking forward to seeing it all unfold. Let's just put it that way.
Limited Respawns chucks into YouTube chat the Romans, and I think he's hinting at the idea that the UEE are kind of later Romans. So if you look at what a lot of games do this, is they look at the fall of a Roman Empire. So we're in the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, but it's been cast 29, thousands of years into the future. And we've had our bad leaders, and we're now in our good leaders. But you've got those problems happening, and that's why Terra is seen as Terra is basically seen as the new Constantinople. Constantinople in the Roman Empire was set up by the Emperor Constantine as an alternative to Rome, because it was close to all the trouble spots, and Rome still held its titular head. It still was where the Senate was. It still was where other things were. But for all intensive purposes, Constantinople became the head of the empire. And as the Western Empire crumbled and was taken over and fell apart, the Eastern Empire lasted until another century or two, and it was basically became the Byzantine Empire. But it was basically Roman. It was Roman until the Turks just captured Constantinople and renamed it. So that's the story that we've kind of got before us, and then you've got all the other influencers and in there as well. Also, we've got, let's see who. Chris says he talks about the Drake Corvette and says, I want the Anvil Corvette. Yeah, everyone wants the Anvil Corvette. It's something they've again hinted at for years and years and years.
Again, I think that kind of leads into why Anvil is one of the ones that got a few ships in there. But the fact that we haven't seen any Anvil ships come along, knowing that essentially it would be almost 2 years away, the only ships we're seeing right now that are coming up are Drake. I think that speaks more to the fact that it's got to be Drake, because of the Ironclad. And I think if we definitely see one, is what I'm expecting at CitizenCon, if we see another Drake one, that's signed, sealed, and delivered. That Drake's the next family after RSI. You got to remember, we've still got the Galaxy and the Perseus to go, right? So they do the Polaris all the way to the end of this year. We know that they started white boxing on the Galaxy, so say that's 6 to 12 months after that, and then you got the Perseus to go after that. I think we could argue that it's another year to get to the end of the Perseus, right? So you're talking 12 months after CitizenCon before they even start on the Ironclad and whatever the hell the Corvette would be anyway, and the Kraken. Right, so how long is it going to take to do those 3? Is that another 2 years? Like we're getting more people joining the ship team. Can they get that down to 12 months? 3 ships and don't think so, especially when the Kraken is that big. But it's just interesting to see. And then what are the ships that will come after that? And I think you would agree with me. There is always signs now of what is coming. It's either the gameplay or the needs of Squadron.
I could see the Anvil, the promised, hinted, teased Anvil carrot that we've heard of being developed or possibly being developed in Killian, in the Killian system in lore. The thing that we've heard hints of in the old voiceovers in Ulsar. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a ship that is again being slated for the next installment of the single player game as something that will come and be developed for that. It's the only reason it makes sense to me as to why we haven't seen it yet, but I could be wrong.
Hey Tom, nice to see you, Tom.
And yes, Luna Maria, it is lovely to see you here again. Always lovely to see our regulars or people who've been and disappeared for a while come back and be active in the chat. We do notice sometimes we can't make comments, and I know you didn't say anything to make that the case, apart from there's massive hopium there, and I was trying to work out, were you talking about us or were you talking about the chat? And so that's why I went back and kind of started to read what the chat was. And so, but yes, it's always lovely to see you guys here. I wish it was possible to actually pick up every one of you. I do notice that who does ask if it's possible to raise the volume.
It'll be on your side, mate. It's 100% your side.
And I was going to say, I'm pretty certain it's your side. We did do a sound check beforehand, and
we're fine.
I thought we sounded even and good. X thought the same. It's probably YouTube on your side, but we can. If it's not, we can always try and have a look at it later. But 9 times out of 10, it's just one person or 2 people who are having the issues. So
look at it this way: if you can get 9 other people to turn up the volume, I will turn up the volume. But it'll blow out my ears and it'll blow out other people's ears that have got it set. So
you're driving. I'm driving. Volume of Unfortunately, I know we're a talk show radio host type setup.
Might be time to get some headphones.
But headphones, earbuds, or
so you can hear us over the engine. But
hear us over the traffic and the engine. But I'm sorry, we can't really change that. Or change or get a different car, get an electric car.
Maybe we are quieter than other YouTube videos, but again, when I go watch it back on my own personal YouTube account, not on the Inforunners account, it is pretty much in line with other YouTube videos. So all I can do is maybe restart your phone. I don't know. That's all I can kind of suggest.
Run your phone for your car radio or whatever it is, and get it. Come from the car speakers. But
I do think Algared leading up more towards CitizenCon though, kind of getting back on topic. I do think you and I will sit down and probably do an expectations video of what we'll kind of expect going into it, because I think it's going to be interesting to actually be there on the floor. It'll be a first for us. But I actually, something else I would like to talk about really quickly I was talking with in the Soul Citizens actually. And
it's interesting you're about to raise this, because I was literally about to say the same thing.
So people were talking about rumors of certain celebrities turning up, and I was thinking about how I wanted to talk about this, right? And I think the easiest way to talk about it is, it's going to sound easy to say this, right? But it's more from a thought experiment, and I think this comes down to anything: is lower your expectations to nothing, right? And then if they do turn up, your expectations, well, cool, it's awesome, but then, because if your expectations are high and they don't turn up, then you're gonna feel like shit.
You're shattered. Absolutely.
Because I honestly think, knowing now that the gala's not happening, both you and I are on the page of that they aren't coming.
Yeah, my view is that the guests are not coming. But I think it was planned. I know from things that it was that the gala was something that had been planned right even before October last year.
Yeah.
That I was told, about we're going to do a very small gathering at for CitizenCon next year. That I think was the gala. And the idea of the gala was to have as many of the stars of Star Citizen, whether it was Mark Hamill, John Rhys Davies, whoever.
Yeah.
But get a whole bunch of them there.
Look, Algared, I think you've got, at the very least, there'll be one celebrity there, and that'll be he'll be in a dog costume, but that'll be Piss Poor Pete, right? So you can go up and give him a hat and stuff like that. Yep. So yeah, Pete will be there.
But I think the fact that they've canned the gala, it's either because they were planning to make CitizenCon the launch of. I think they were planning to make CitizenCon the launch of the of Squadron 42. They've realised they're not going to make that, and they've canned that. They've canned that for the time being.
Yeah.
Does that mean they're being duplicitous? No. I think it's best laid plans. This is what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
And can we reach that goal? And I've always said I think it's for Squadron 42. Will they make it? I don't know, but I think they're planning for a window, and they were hoping to be able to do it. But based on the gala being dropped or shifted, I don't think it's the launch of Squadron 42. It might be a date, and I think
actually that's something.
The lack of a gala says the star, the stars aren't, the special guests aren't turning up, and if they do, it's great, and if they don't, well, it's
So inadvertently, Piss Poor Pete's just reminded me of something I want to do. I want to do a giveaway for a ship, right? But I wanted to do it for a thing that I would like to do, right? And I had this idea, and you can tell me if it's. I know I have stupid ideas, Aggregate, so you feel free to tell me if it's stupid. But I wanted to get shirts made that have some kind of picture of John Crew, right? Whether it's a pirate or whatever, and it says John's crew, like a part of, that a part of the crew, a part of the ship thing.
Yep.
And you don't give it to John Crew, but you give it to everyone else on the ship team because he's the boss. So it says a part of John's crew, and his last name is John Crew. I think it's totally fitting, right? And I just think that would be really funny to present CIG ship team with a bunch of shirts that have John Crew on it, because he trolls people. So let's troll him back. So my idea was, why don't we run with that theme and get a bunch of people to design that shirt? We'll get, you'd only need, I don't know, 10 of them made, and we'll get them. We can probably get them made in the UK when we get there, and give them to them at CitizenCon. And rather than me doing it, right? Like, because I can obviously do that really easily. I just thought it'd be cool if we could chuck it out to the community. I don't know. I just want to know what you thought about that. I want to know what chat thinks about that, or is that a completely stupid idea? So, yeah, just let me know your thoughts, Algared.
I like the idea. I could see the possibility of even doing caricatures of John Crew in the middle with these heads of a crew around him.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why it's such a cool idea. You throw it out there, and just see what people come back with. And again, how you and I brainstorm and creatively think, and someone will come up with a cool idea, and we'll put it on a shirt, and yeah. Anyway, all right. So maybe I'll do that
as well.
I might do that in a more official capacity. And we'll chuck it up on Twitter, and we'll do it in one of our videos and stuff like that. And I don't know, I'll go through the backlog of the ships there that CIG gave us, and we'll give one away.
And sorry, who? It does look like that most people seem to be saying that the sound is good. So it's nice to know. I'm sorry, but when you're driving, we might sound lower than everyone else. But when we listen to it on our own stream, on our own YouTube, it just sounds normal.
All right, next question.
I have a next question from the next was a question. It was actually from Ryzen. These are still our premier questions, so this is great. If you've got a question, make sure you put it in so we've got lots to answer because we live and die on questions. Ryzen said he's making more a comment. He says, okay, Jared just answered the numbers thing, but if they're so off, why does that impact? So why in the first place do they start a panic? And so that's the whole idea of...
Because people don't understand how game development works.
Yeah.
It literally is a thing. Like, I know the people here listening are the more hardcore people, but you guys have seen it. You've seen the panic. You've seen the sky is falling titles from other content creators, because that's the only way they can make hype is with negativity, right?
Yep.
And again, if you're in a testing environment, what's easier, giving everyone a shit ton of money or just make it so the payouts are one credit? All it has to do is pay out and you know it's working, right? It's a testing environment. You limit all the barriers of entry just so you can get everything to work. And that's why everything just pays out at nothing, because it means someone comes back and their job, if my job is to get the quest working, the guy that they were talking to was the reward system guy. He's the guy that comes back and puts all the numbers in. That's two separate jobs. That's not one job, that's two. And that's why you'll see different payouts. That's why the SCU at the moment, when it's automated, as I've pointed out multiple times now, and the reason I'm pointing this out is I've heard other content creators literally complaining about it, that it takes just as long to load one, automatically loading, by the way, one 32 SCU container at the time as it takes to do 32 separate one SCU containers. But that's obviously because it's a testing environment.
Yep. Yeah, and
that's not important at the moment.
And that's ties back to the question that Ryzen was asking about. What do we think of the load times and the prices? Yeah. It's just testing a part of it. It's also part of the reason why I always think that when a new patch comes, they should there's a time where they're just to wipe everything. And yes, if you've got millions and extra ships you've bought in game, I think there's going to be a time where you lose them, 100%. And if you don't like that, well, tough. Because I think that there'll be a time when they have to do it because the economy has changed so much.
And I know the audience we're talking to here, of our own audience, that they are educated. That's what, you know, like, the more rigorously this is tested, the more things are deleted and it's tested again and deleted and tested again and deleted and tested again. You find all those errors, you know?
Yep.
It's a no-brainer. I would rather go through 1,000 different tests of pain to know when that it actually starts to count. Will you imagine if the game went live tomorrow and things were permanent? It would be terrible because the game's just not ready. You know, everyone knows that it's not ready. But again, there's just a patience problem. Everyone wants this stuff right now and they want it the maximum thing. All right, so cargo's coming. And then they look at it and go, why doesn't it do this, this, and this? Because it's not ready, and you got to build it in layers. You know, I just keep coming into that. I don't think I've hit on a better analogy than the puzzle piece one that I told you. And I know I've said it twice now, and I'll say it again, because it makes logical sense. Instead of just giving Algared 5,000 pieces of a puzzle and say, put this together, all the different ways he'd have to figure out how to get it to work and stuff like that, or I just singularly give him one piece after the other, but he knows that it connects to the previous piece. What's easier? It may take longer, but it is easier, and you'd only ever have to do it once, right? Where if I just give him all 5,000 pieces, it's going to take longer. It really would take longer. If you work it out, it is quicker if I know what's happening and I just give you one piece at a time. That's why they do development like they do, because it actually takes less time. Not more, less.
Yeah. And there's a comment there from Lobster Mac saying it takes more time to fill a 32 SU box than to fill a 1 SU box. So that should take more time. But at the present...
Aren't they already packed, though, in advance?
Yeah, well, you'd expect that. But if you're getting your cargo, if you're ordering your cargo, if they're loading the boxes up for you before you go, then you'd expect the smaller boxes to come up quicker than the others.
Knowing all the other numbers are kind of like level across the board, it makes logical sense that that's level across the board, and someone hasn't come in and said all the timers yet.
Look,
it's really obvious.
I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying I'm agreeing with that, and I expect at the moment it's there because it's testing. down the track they'll modify them, I think.
Yeah.
But
again, I just look back at things like mining and combat and salvage and all that, and look at how they've all progressed. It's the sky is falling again.
yeah,
Again, just like
look, and I know
there
that,
was something you and I talked about last night, right? And I'll go over this really quickly. But when we were talking about the Vulcan, right? Someone had come to me and said, "Oh, it looks like they're removing the drones from the Vulcan." Now, you and I talked, and they're clearly not, right?
Yep.
And at the time, I joked. I said certain content creators could make a field day with this. They'd make videos for a month about this, and I have no doubt they would if that was the case.
well,
But
I
again,
wouldn't advise they do anyway, because
just how it's got to
they
this
get a big
point
score.
now where it's not even about the truth anymore. It's just about clicks, and it's just got to the
Yeah.
point where you know, all the bad mouthery and the shit that's been thrown at this game over the years. You and I are both at the point where the game is starting to speak for itself. We have no doubt Squadron 42 is going to come out and it'll shut a lot. I don't think it will shut a lot of people up, right? I think it will stop a lot of people because they'll actually play it and realize a lot of people have been throwing hate. But there's always a new person around the corner that will fall for that negativity. People like drama. That's just how we are wired as a species.
Yeah.
And so
Unfortunately,
I don't think the hate's ever going to stop. Is my point.
Yeah. No, I think I'd agree. I think I'd agree with that. I did have a point I was going to make, but I've forgotten that. I got distracted. I started looking at chat, and
Motherfucker.
chat, you distracted me.
I'm going to answer this question now because I was playing with Pete the other day, right? And he's asking this Pete question to troll me. So Pete says, question, having played the game a little, that's the first dig at me, right? Do you now see a legitimate need for vehicles like the Mule, despite the lack of a tractor beam? Because I obviously made comments the other week that I think it needs a tractor beam because it can't load cargo containers properly. But what came really evident playing with Pete was that it is very evident the Mule was built for distribution centers. And I can talk about that in two perspectives. One, they are very good for doing the box missions around the distribution centers. And two, they're the only vehicle, I think, besides maybe a PTV or an STV, that are actually thin enough to get through the deliberate gaps they've made. So you might open a door and they've literally got a cargo container sitting there. Now, the door's wide enough for a rover to fit through, but you can't get it between the box and the wall, right? So they've literally made it smaller where it only works for, yet the vehicles that they're spawning at the distribution centers are the rovers. So they've deliberately designed it so you've either got to get out. You see where I'm going with this very quickly, right? So it's not been designed for the vehicles they've given you, but it works for other vehicles, and they're all hand containers. So you put them all on the sides of the Mule, and you usually have 3 to 4 containers, and you go over to the other side, deliver them, pick some more up, deliver them. It works really well for the distribution centers. And again, when we first saw the Mule, it was in those distribution centers. I think it was not designed for cargo like they sold it. I think it was actually designed for distribution centers. Again, the very first time we saw them was them driving around in distribution centers. So.
Yep. I've just remembered what I was going to talk about. It was to do with the Vulture, and the lore piece that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lore piece talks about the Vulture and how the history and development of the Vulture, and they say that the Vulture starts off unarmed, with no drones. It was all manual because they didn't have drones then. And as it goes on, they've got to the modern point where they've got drones. And people were reading that and saying, "Oh, this seems to say that the drones are not going to happen." The thing to pay attention to is that article is not new. That article was in volume 7 of Jump Point. That takes it back to around 2018 or so. So it came out the same year. That article was written as an accompaniment to the launch of the Vulture in game, or to the sale of a Vulcan. The Vulcan. Sorry, Chris. So.
Senior moment. We all knew what he was talking about. He's just never seen it.
The article on the Vulcan with its drones and the history of the Vulcan came out. It was written at the time that the Vulcan was being sold and the drones were being introduced. So, to those people who read that article and says, "Oh no, the drones are going to disappear," no, that is part of the history and part of a development and part of a law that explains why we've got the ship as it is now. So there's no chance. May they change the way the drones work? Absolutely. May it change the way in which we see things? Absolutely. They're there. I don't think there's any doubt. So, yeah. Going back to our questions, the very next comment, the next one was, I picked it out because it was a super chat on the Premiere. We get these very rarely. And this is a question for you and I, and how do you pronounce iron? Is it iron or iron? So
I didn't get this question when it was dropped because I don't think there is a different pronunciation of iron, but okay.
Yep. So
yeah.
I only know the different pronunciation because I watched Mythic Quest, and the CEO or the person in Mythic Quest is named Ian or Iron. And they say it's slightly different. It took me a while to get used to seeing his name.
Unless it's someone having I just realized it could be someone having a dig at Zion or Jean because of the way they're pronounced.
Yeah.
So
it's just it is a different, iron or iron, as in iron particles or iron as the mineral. I think I still say both of those exactly the same. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah.
But we both looked at that and went, it's iron.
Yeah.
Even an ion cannon, ion, I suppose I'd say that's slightly different. So,
just really quickly, I know you just finished talking about this, but it still has a drone in the background of the Vulcan too. So I think that kind of.
But if you go to the top of the bit, it actually tells you
it does say the jump point. Yeah.
The jump point episodes, volume 7, I think, was it 3?
7.12, it says.
7.12. So December of episode 7. So, which is the same year that I believe that the Vulcan was first sold.
Yeah.
So anyone is saying that article is heralding the end of drones, just doesn't understand the way the law was written. So, or hasn't paid attention to the dates. So, in my opinion. Now that was a super chat from Orlet, and that was a $2 super chat, which is very appreciative of. That was followed up by another super chat, and I didn't put down. I'm sorry, I didn't cut the person's name out this time, so I'm not sure who it was.
I think it was the same person, to be honest with you, if I remember this.
No, it was someone else.
Was it?
From memory. Yeah.
Okay.
But their question was, that's like asking aluminium or aluminum. And I would normally say aluminium. So
aluminium and aluminum are the two pronunciations.
So which one would you get?
Aluminium. Well, I think it's an American thing because they seem to drop a lot of U's from the English language. Like I always call it, they call it color, but if you actually sound it out, it's color because they drop the U's out. So it's just, again, at the end of the day, I've had this argument with my mother, right? My mother is an English teacher, and I've said this on stream before, right? She used to argue with me about how things were spelt and stuff like that and how they were pronounced and all that. She's a real grammar Nazi, right? At the end of the day, language is a tool. If you understand what I'm saying, if I say gobbity gobbity goop and you understand what I'm saying, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's just a tool. So how I pronounce it, right? You can go talk to someone with a really thick Asian, Scottish, whatever accent, and you can't quite make out what they're saying, and then you all of a sudden realize what they're trying to say, and you go, aha, that's when you learn it. When you're at your extreme, when it is really difficult, but you actually understand what they're saying, you realize language is just a tool. So it doesnment matter, right? At the end of the day.
We talk about language as being living. So a dead language is one that's no longer changing and no longer being used. Yeah. We talk about language as being living because over time, new phrases come in, new terms come in, older phrases drop out. So we have archaic phrases and then slang terms become popular. One of the things I really, really like, and this is one of the reasons why I like teaching Indonesian, is the official language of Indonesia and Malaysia is Bahasa Indonesia and Bahasa Malay. They are almost identical. but Bahasa Indonesia was accepted as the official language in about 1947. And so what you see is just the development of a language without all the cultural baggage we've got in English. So in English, you've got influence of Roman, Saxon, Norse, French, Welsh. You've got the whole kit and caboodle over millennium. And that makes English an absolute dog language to learn from both. Why do we have a term for lamb? Why do we have lamb and why do we have mutton? Why do we have, things like that? And it literally goes back to 1066. The lamb is the French word, which the nobles were using after, William the Conqueror beats them. And then mutton is the old English word, which the commoners were using. And so you get that flow over, you get the way in which the declensions or the way the word endings work, just absolute making English an absolute dog's breakfast to anyone who's learning a language.
Yeah.
But Indonesian has this newness, and so you can actually trace the changes and see how the language is changing so easily. And so anyway, that's neither here nor there for Star Citizen. But
point noted, it's a tool. We'll leave it at that. Right, next question, Algared.
Ryzen had a question again from the Premiere. If time-sensitive cargo missions are a thing, then maybe there'll be hope for making a mission doing Han Solo-like cargo dashes in small, fast ships instead of a Caterpillar C2 meta.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
100%. Yep.
Next one.
And that was a comment, but it just seemed relevant. So some of these are comments that seemed relevant at the time. If they can just make sure that these boxes are reliably non-buggy, then this could be fun. Otherwise, it will be high drama.
Yeah, so he's specifically talking about the cargo missions there.
Yeah, so X was talking about the cargo missions and pointing out that the missions bugged out, and sometimes it just didn't register the box. And a bit like the original cargo missions when we did the boxes, and you take the box to the terminal, but the place where you needed to put it was like above the terminal, below the terminal, so it didn't register. You couldn't put it in, you couldn't put it down. And it's that same type of problem. Similar problem. So if they can fix it, it's non-buggy. It'll be great. But if they can't fix it, it just becomes an absolute frustration because unlike in other games where I can say, right, I've got my cargo loaded, I'm saving the game, right, if it crashes, I can go back to there. In Star Citizen, if it fails, to redo the mission, you've got to go right back to the beginning, and that's a time waste. And that's why Star Citizen becomes so frustrating. It's such a time waste. It's time sink. And time is our most valuable commodity. So, yeah. T-Jack had a question. T-Jack's question was, is there a max on how much cargo you can hoard in our home city? Not the elevator, just the cargo storage area. There may not be now, but I do know back in the day they did talk about having warehouse space and a certain amount of cargo you could store.
You'd probably have to pay in-game money to get more, essentially. But again, at the moment, it's unknown.
Yeah, and they did talk about way back then being able to buy additional cargo storage. So think of like your phone backup or your phone storage, and you get you can get extra storage for same type of thing. It'll be a money, that's an additional money sink that they can have in game to suck out money out of a game to make you actually want to do more stuff. Ryzen then asks, what do you guys think could be the most surprising unintended use of these boxes?
Not a lot at the moment because, again, it's tier 0. I think it is pretty much just trying to get the system we already have to work in the new system before they add new things. Again, I think it becomes a game of Tetris in a way once you start to get different types of boxes in there. But again, it's early days.
What do I think could be a use for them? Eventually, delivery of invasive species, dumping copians into Orville or Arkle or Microtech, or dumping or transporting dead bodies to hide them.
Really important question for you. Just what size SCU container does an UU girl fit in?
I don't know. You'd have to, you know, we don't store Ulu girls.
Oh,
in
so
Canada.
you just pay the other people. You don't even worry about what's. Oh wow, okay, that's just harsh.
No,
And
no,
you didn't even care to find out, right? Wow,
no.
wow,
Well, you know, you
harsh,
don't tend to kill
harsh,
the girls. You
whoa,
know,
harsh.
they would normally be on a cryo bed if you're keeping them in storage.
Oof. Mm,
You know, because
oof.
you got to keep them fresh.
Okay, delicious, delicious. Wow, harsh, 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 harsh
But
old man
I've
Hester.
always maintained that the fixation of Ulu girls is a result of taking Evercrack.
Mm,
It's hallucinogen.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Keep telling yourself that, old man.
mm-hmm.
All right, what are these
Well, you know,
last? What are these last two ones from the stream?
okay, the last two from a stream are Jeremiah 2810. He says, now the question is, will mining bring more value than cargo delivery missions? Because those delivery missions assume you have the appropriate ship. Or do they plan on letting you rent a ship and deliver at lower value than the product's worth, i.e.
No,
make payments on a semi-truck?
it's
Um,
it's every time a new gameplay comes in, they up that to get you to test it. It's a
yep,
no-brainer. It's a testing environment. Just go with the testing. Yeah.
yep. And
All right.
eventually we'll change it.
Yeah. Last one.
That one. And the last one was from Robert Schumacher, 2707. He says, what I'm wondering, as far as blockade runner missions, is whether or not we'll be able to soft def cargo ships. Really not as reliable as using EMP, distortion, and boarding, etc. But if you're still going to have distortion doing nothing to shields, it's a risk that might be worth taking. I think the idea that they were hinting at in that discussion in the Star Citizen, inside Star Citizen, was the fact that you want to soft def the ships rather than blow them up.
That's the whole reason for distortions to exist in a way, is to you are trying to retain what you're attacking. He literally went to the point and said if you just soft def the ship, you would only get 30% of the cargo. That is a huge loss. You are highly motivated to use distortion weapons. Yes, it is a bigger risk, but a bigger reward, ironically, as we always talk about.
No, I was thinking he was saying if you destroyed the ship, then you'd get maybe 30%. But if, you know, but so far I've got the idea that if you soft def, you've still got the crew inside that you have to kill and take out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it could go either way, you know. So the more damage, but I think the point he was making out, the more damage you do to the ship, the more you're going to impact the cargo.
Well, because in damaging the ship, you're also damaging the cargo, essentially. Long story short, yeah.
So the more damage you do to the ship, the less cargo you'll get. That's what I took away from that. What the balance will end up being, your guess is as good as mine. So that's the end of our premiere review.
What
and
is
now
there
we're
about?
on questions.
It's about 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 questions.
16 questions, and it took us 2 hours to get through those questions from the premiere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Brooke Willis says, do you think that the lack from CIG at the moment is because they are throwing all their resources into 4.0 rushing Squadron 42? How good?
Well, I don't think they're rushing Squadron 42. If they're rushing Squadron 42, we would certainly have the launch at CitizenCon.
Yeah.
And I think we'd get the gala. The fact that we're not getting the gala at CitizenCon.
The gala! Hear that? The gala! The gala, guys! This is what I mean. Like, yes, we can make fun of Algared, but this is the same point. It's a tool. I know he's saying gala. See, now you've got me saying it, son of a bitch. But it's not a gala, because a gala's a bird. But anyway, go ahead.
And who has me saying AIE?
Yep. Actually, do you know I heard another content creator say it the other day, and I lost my shit.
Yeah.
I was like, he watches our stuff.
Yeah. So you know, if I were rushing Squadron 42, then I think the gala would have been still on. I think they'd have.
Yeah.
But the fact that I don't think it's not ready. It's not ready for when they thought it would be ready. I think that's why the gala has been stopped. I don't think it's not nefarious on their part. It's just the nature of development.
They're laid plans, as you said yourself. We use that for
yeah. So, so I don't think that. Are they putting more resources or trying to solve it? Yeah, probably. Is that why they're quiet or we see less? No, I just think it's the nature of game development. But what are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you 100%. I think they aimed for a target and missed, and we've seen them do it before. I think they're very passionate people. I think most creative people are very positive, and
Mm.
that you can't account for everything with this many moving parts.
Yeah.
It goes back to the whole thing where the one I always give you, Algared, here's unlimited funds. How long is it going to take you to cure cancer? You can't tell me how long it's going to take you to cure cancer because there's too many unknowns.
Yeah.
You can't just throw money at a problem and solve it. It doesn't work that way.
The beauty of Star Citizen, and I'm not sure how much this has been influenced by the picking up of a Caldecott family onto the board and other stuff, was without having a publisher, they could take as long as they needed to get it right. Whereas this has been an EA game, they would have been saying, no, it must be out by this date. And they wouldn't give a damn whether the characters were still T-posing on chairs or standing on chairs. You get it out.
Yeah, it's got to go out on that certain date because we spent as much on marketing as we did the entire game, and we've said it'll be out in this date, so it's got to be out in this date.
Yep.
And again, it shows you that where the point has come with the gaming industry, it's not about the game. It's just all about making noise and hype and all that. And I was thinking back to let's go back to Nintendo 64, for example, where the games are on a cartridge and you couldn't update them.
Yeah,
they were you almost never heard of a game with bugs. They just didn't exist. And now because it's like the whole thing, we'll fix it in post type of thing. That they'll just do updates to fix it, and that you'll see games come out that run like horseshit, and it'll take them 12 months to fix. I remember Call of Duty games, and I'm going back as early as say 2010. I remember when, so at the time I was running an internet cafe, and I remember I think it was the very first Black Ops came out, and it literally just for the PC because console was the premier type of thing at that time. It took them 9 months to do the first patch for a PC. 3 months before the next one came out. What the hell? Unacceptable.
And Arthur Vanderlei, thank you for that $7.99. Always appreciated. What more can I say? It broke our mind.
Where were you last week, Arthur? What happened to you? I was wondering where you were. I thought you'd got sick or something because you weren't here last week. But yeah, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, so much appreciated. But yeah, I think that is really the issue, isn't it? It's that game development time and the way they do things, and it's a problem with gamers. It's a problem with the game industry, and I think that was the refreshing thing with Star Citizen from the get-go. The way in which they said, "Look, we want this to be good," and man, I'm so glad. If you think that's a good thing, then what you're saying is you love Sandy. Because Sandy was the one who said to Chris, you don't need to use a publisher. Do it your own. You don't need them.
Well, you can go back far enough Algared, just to show you how things have changed. I remember going, I can't wait to play, like Activision are bringing out that new game, can't wait to play it because they make good games. I can't wait to play that EA game because they make good games. Do you say that now about Activision or EA?
No, well, it's true. Back in the day, you saw an EA game, you went, great, I'm getting it.
Yeah, it stood for something. Right? But once money people come in, they don't give a shit. They'll just milk it for all it's worth. And I think most companies, right, is where they go on the stock exchange. If CIG ever goes on the stock exchange, I'll know it's the beginning of the end. So yeah. Not saying they will, I'm just saying if.
Yep. Yeah, you would have to go so far back to say, I want an EA game.
Yeah, we're talking back about in the 90s. Like, that's how far back we're going. Like, it'd be like 1995. But there were EA games that, like, I remember and I remember sitting at the bus stop when I just picked it up from Harvey Norman. Actually, it wasn't even called Harvey Norman then in Tasmania. It was called Lochran's, right? That's how
Yeah.
far back I'm going, right? And I remember sitting down. It would have been I'd have to think of the date, but I was at the bus stop and I just opened it, and it was when they had moved from normal DVD covers to the thicker ones, and it was the Medal of Honor, and it came in the in the case, and then you had to open it, and it was one of the last games that they ever had in a box, and it had a normal CD cover, and the ones that came after that all went into those grey plastic ones that were fatter.
Yeah.
And I just remember Medal of Honor, and I remember installing it, and it was really awesome. And it was literally the very next game after that, the expansion. I think it was called Spearhead, and everything started to go to shit with EA because they started monetizing, they started doing expansion, like they stopped doing expansion packs, and there was really weird things with that game. Just to give an example, right? It had all these really cool little features, and when the expansion pack came out, it was made by a different company, and they had little cool features like if you shot someone in the hand, when you killed them, it told you where it shot them. When the expansion pack came out, it removed all those things because it just wasn't they saw it as superfluous things or superfluous lines of code, so they removed it. So in a weird turn of phrase, these cool features that had been put in by the initial developer were removed in the sequel and in the expansion, and it was, and I was like, why would you take a feature that was there and remove it?
Because they didn't see it as being realistic. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I get it because back in the day, the 80s and the 90s, you would buy your package games. You'd know which developers were doing quality games, and
I think Monster Avery kind of covers it right there in that one little sentence. They lost the passion, and it's now a product, and that's why Star Citizen has got so many people following it, because you can tell it's a passion, right? And some of the people that have come in over the years are those traditional marketing people, and they don't have that passion. That's why we have a lot of complaints about the marketing people. But again, the developers themselves, anyone that sat there and talked to them at a Citizen Con or a Bar Citizen, it just flows out. And Chris himself, I remember sitting down with him 10 years ago, Algared. It just flowed out of the man. It was crazy how passionate he was about getting this thing off the ground. And now it's 10 years later. He's still got, I have no doubt he might be a bit tired, but I've no doubt he's got that same passion.
You hear him talk at conventions or Bar Citizens or stuff, or you hear him when he's doing, when he's the last interview he gave a couple of years ago where Sandy was interviewing him. And you could tell the passion. It was so, it sticks in my head because Sandy had to say, okay, now tell me simply, stop what you're going, because you're going off on the deep end, and she pulled him back, so.
You do now know that those interviews were now almost 10 years ago. Like next year, that's 10 years since she interviewed him.
Execute, I hate you.
You're officially old when yesterday was 10 years ago. Right.
I am old. My students tell me that all the time.
Yeah.
So Luna Maria does make the point. Games back then did have glitches and problems, and they did, but not as bad as they are now. And they were playable. Whereas sometimes you get a game and it's not playable, and you've got to wait. You've literally got to wait for the update.
Yep.
I can't remember too many of the good games that were like.
We're getting games that come out now where you lose all your progression. The bugs are so bad.
Like I'm thinking of games that came out that were woeful, such as those put out by Derek. Right, his games were woeful. You couldn't play them. They crashed all the time. So you saw a game that was put out by him, and you went, "Nah," or whatever his company was, and you went, "Nah, that's rubbish." Whereas you saw another game and you went, "Yeah, this is a good game," or this should be a good game because this company does it. I can also remember that I think it was Wing Commander had a bug, and the Wing Commander bug was one where when it crashed, or closing screen when you quit, it actually had a bug that crashed it, and so they never actually fixed it. They just put a flash screen up that kind of said, goodbye or something like that. But it was one of those weird bugs that solved an issue that they had when you quit out of the game. But it was a bug. It was one of those weird things, but they solved it just by by covering it over. But
So
yeah,
a good little doggo just like this to me, Algared. So I think this
Yep.
kind of proves my point. Obviously it wasn't me that did this, but people complaining. Updated cargo load times based on box size instead of per SCU. So I think that kind of covers what I was trying to say. Like you give it enough time,
and they start to modify it and tweak it. And
yeah, it was
the other thing-
really obvious to me, and this has just proven my point. Some people just like to complain, man. I don't think it's complaining to get things fixed. I think they just complain because they want clicks, and it's just got beyond a joke at this point. And yeah,
Yep.
you know, I just wish CIG would stop highlighting these people. I really do.
Yep.
Really do.
Yep, ditto. All right, so our next question is from Brooke Wills. Is it Wills or Wills? Wills. So the glasses are starting to get the glare from the light. So it, you know what it's like.
Yes, I do.
He says, why not a hybrid? So he's talking about the Razor variant or the new variant. He says essentially a proper interceptor / tackle small medium ships. Yeah.
Well, it technically would be an interceptor, because of the QED anyway. So yeah, I guess it could do both, but
Yep.
tends to be when they do a racer, they tend to do a racing variant. The other thing is though, it doesn't really, again, it's hard to see in that blurry image, but it doesn't really seem from the preview, it didn't really have any extra fins or anything like that. And that seems to be the racing. Well, you tell me different, Algared. That seems to be the thing at the moment. If they do a racing variant, it has extra fins.
It does seem to, if you've got a racing variant, it does seem to have the extra aerofoils or fins, and you just see that when you look at ships like the Razors or the.
Okay, opening the email again because apparently there's a sneak peek in that as well. So let's have a look.
Yep.
But you
Yep.
keep saying what you're saying.
Yep. No, I was done. I was about to say, let's move on to the next question.
Wait, hang on. Here we go. I've just got it. That's what that noise is. That's my email. Open in browser. So I don't know. This could be nothing because I haven't seen it, but I know it's safe because it's from CIG. So let's have a quick look. Oh god, that is so white. My eyeballs. Sneak peek. That settlement. That seems to be correct. Power management is that
Maybe.
kind of what that is? Like, so not just managing it on ships, but managing it on outposts.
Well, with
Outpost fuses. That's exactly what I'm. Yeah, that's the technical term, Pete. Yeah, because that's the 3 little fuses. So it's taking that same ship mentality and putting into outposts. That sounds like the CIG I know.
Is that anything other than we've been expecting?
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same thing. So essentially, engineering on the ground works as engineering in a ship. Makes sense to me. The one thing I'm waiting to see is like components for buildings because I reckon that's coming. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Well, you can see it at the moment. You go into an outpost. It's usually the back with the power module.
The power cell thing. Yeah.
So, picking up a comment that Luna Maria does make in the YouTube chat, she does pick up the point that if you bought a glitchy game back then, you were stuck with it, and that's exactly why companies back then tended to try and put out good games, because if they put out a bad game, you went, I just bought a game from you, it's crap, I'm not buying another one.
There were cases, though, they were extremely rare, where they had to recall the games and reproduce them all because they were that broken. But again, they actually did testing. Again, you got to understand where companies come from in a capitalist society. You legally have to keep increasing your profits. So that's got to come from somewhere. So they cut QA, they cut testing, and blah, blah, blah. Again, if I can get away with one tester instead of 1,000, that saves me thousands of dollars, right? And again, if I can cut 1,000 people and I put that money directly into my own pocket, I will do so. You see that with the big EA people at the moment and stuff like that. Like Bobby Kotick was making more money than any CEO in history, and then you'd literally hear him go, "Oh, and by the way, I've just fired 5,000 people." Blah blah blah. You know, like that, and that's how they did it. They were just firing people and keeping the money. It was ridiculous. They don't give a shit about who buys the games. They don't give a shit about the people that work for them. We're
Yep.
just all dispensable to them. And again, the people that are making the game are the passionate people. And you'll often find the best game studios are full of passionate people. And I'll give you an example that you'll all understand. Blizzard. They got brought out and it all went to shit. Look
Yep.
at what Blizzard's been doing for the last, I don't know, 10 years. Remakes. Because there's nobody there that is actually Blizzard anymore. They've all moved on. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to see what I'm talking about, you've only got to look at there's a game being made by, ironically, they named the studio Frost Giant. There's a dig at Blizzard, if I've ever seen one. They're making a game called Stormgate. And it is literally the people that were the people that wanted to make StarCraft 3. Activision didn't want to go forward with it, so they left Blizzard and made their own studio, and they funded on Kickstarter. It's been one of the most successful Kickstarters in a really long time, and it's going to be a free to play game, and it looks great. And they've essentially gone down the Diablo-esque theme of StarCraft. So you've kind of got like your Terran that's a little bit like StarCraft, and then you've got like this demon team. And I think the last team that's coming is not Protoss, it's I forgot what the last one is, but you get my point, right? They are taking they've essentially, they're almost like Blizzard 2.0, but just for the StarCraft area. You know, you've got a lot, and that's a really common thing. Like there were people that worked at CIG that were from Blizzard. There were also, remember that guy we met at PAX, and Ben, I think his name was, I think his name was Ben. He ended up going to Blizzard. He wanted to work at Blizzard. I don't know if he's still there. It was Chelsea's partner.
Yep.
Ben?
Yep.
It was Ben, wasn't it? And
no, it wasn't Ben. It was
I remember he said he did the voice of the guy in the drop seat that was in the Redeemer.
He's one of the guys in the drop seat. The guy was kind of asleep. He got woken up. He did the bit for that. He was just gone blank on his name. But
he
moved to
given, he went to Blizzard. I don't reckon it'd still be there. Like, I know it's been 10 years, but like seriously, with all the shit that went down there and all that type of stuff, like again, look at all the bad games that have come out of there, and that's where it's from. Money people make games bad. Games people don't make games bad. Like that's the easiest way to put it. And you'll see that in any business industry when something is sold off or put on the stock exchange, it is the beginning of the end. Because basically those people are right, I don't want to do this anymore. They just want to get the money out of it and leave. Right? So anytime something I know and love goes on the stock exchange, I am out. Because it's the beginning of the end. Because you've got to start cutting things to get the profits to go up and up and up. And when you cut things, it's like too much. What's that saying? Too much butter. Not enough butter across too much bread, or whatever it's called. Right? You're spreading things thin, essentially, and everything goes to shit. Time to get out. Every single product I've ever seen.
Otherwise, you become a wraith.
Yep.
And if you know where that reference is going to, then
yep.
So yeah. But I think from memory he had family links to Blizzard, so he'd always wanted to go back there or go there. So, but yeah, Chris has a question. He says, "It seems to me that cargo elevators were not expected at Outpost, and some of them look unnatural and shoehorned in." Absolutely. Mm-hmm. How do you think CIG could have dealt with the cargo in Outposts? I think the way we've done it is the way that makes the most sense. I think they always intended to do lifts, and then they went, "Oh, hang on, that doesn't work. We need to have a."
I think eventually what's going to happen is they're going to have, the way I put it is, remember Levski?
Yep.
I think pads will become essentially elevators or in-ground hangars.
Yep. Well, I think it makes sense. Because that way, if you store a ship in a hangar in one of those locations, it will mean you'll be able to get them back. And at the moment, you can at times store ships in the location or land the ships and store them, but you can't get them back. So,
well, this is the other thing. Do they want pads to kind of potentially tell you that you can't store a ship there? That's the other part of this. So it really comes down to where they want to take it. But yes, it does feel very tacked on at the moment when it's just essentially a box that's attached to the side of a landing pad. It feels a little weird. But again, if you were going to make an elevator, wouldn't you have it just without the walls and stuff? So it would just,
Mm.
because that's what makes it feel weird. It does feel like they've just taken the component from the elevators and put the room around the outside of it, where what it would really be is just an elevator that comes up with no walls, right? So they didn't want to remake that, so that's why they put the less work, right?
Yep.
So from my perspective, it'll just be interesting to see where that goes. That is a very interesting thing, and it does feel tacked on. I do agree with you, but again, Tier 0,
Yep.
I want to see how that evolves.
Yeah, and it's part of just the development of a game and working things
Mm.
out and adding to the content and the
Mm.
everything else. The other thing that that screenshot of the outpost fuses seemed to indicate was, and it was a question someone asked in chat. I can't remember who it was, but the statement was, "I hope that means that we'll be able to turn on and off the turrets, the defense turrets."
Yep.
And so, if you've got a mission to go into an area, if you could get someone to sneak in beforehand, turn off the turrets, and then bring the ships in, it
100%.
changed that changes that mission. It add more. You could go in guns blazing, or you can go stealthy. And what have we heard them talk about with missions? Options.
Yep.
So it makes perfect sense to me.
It gives reasons for ground vehicles to exist. It's how you and I knew shields were going to be a thing before they even announced them at CitizenCon last year, because it was just so blatantly obvious they had to exist to force people onto the ground. Yeah.
Yep. So Monster Avery now has a question. This was from 6:42. So we're only an hour and a half behind.
Mm-hmm.
Monster Avery said, given the comment that Jake was hoping to have it out soon, do you think we get the progress trackers back prior to SitCon? Or at SitCon, said something like they were going to, at SitCon, they said something like they were going to talk about them next year or so.
I think, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush with an audience like this, right? You guys are here. You guys have been here for the long haul. You've heard me say before, besides CitizenCon last year, we are in the biggest drought we've ever been in because so much is being polished and finalized. I always said it would get darker before the release, right? Because that's where they close everything up. They just put, heads down, ass up, and get to work, right? And that's where we're at. We are in the crux of that. And not only that, we are just going into the normal quiet period. This is probably going to be one of the hardest quiet periods you've ever been through, right? Because we're already in one and we're about to go quieter, right? So this is the tough one. This is the really tough one, right? And I've been having the worst burnout I've ever had, because there's just been such a lack of content, right? After doing it for what's this, 10 years Algared right now or more, it is tough to get through, but we'll get through it, because we know at the other side you're going to get this really cool, great game. And again, I think younger people would struggle with that more than us. Older backers, not saying that you're all old farts, but you get what I'm trying to get at, right?
I think newer backers certainly will struggle with it because but and you get that a lot of newer backers who don't know the history of the background just say, why isn't it here, why am I waiting, what's the problem?
Well, how many will come in at this free fly and they'll be burned out by 2 weeks later, and then you won't see them for 2 years. That's really, really common. So
yeah. So related to that is a question by Wouter Hack, who says, the cargo patch is already so late. Do you think we will ever get 4.0 patch into Evo by the end of the year?
Again, like, I just sit here and go, it doesn't matter to me, because as long as it works, it's how long it takes. It's not. I kind of ran the whole thing about I don't agree with dates. Just get it, like
just
you can't. Yeah, you can't get the same amount of content done consistently. Object A doesn't take exactly the same amount of time to do as Object B because it's different and there are different requirements, so.
Yep. You really need to go back and have a look at the Inside Star Citizen with Kieran Davis and I can't remember
Tracy.
Sean Tracy. talking about the making of the whales,
Mm.
because that really sums up how they do time. And you even then they're talking about, okay, they get something to make. They say, what do you think it's going to take you to get this done? And the person said this time, and then they balance out the time and say, okay, that's what we think. But that's assuming that there's no problems. When you're doing something new, or even if you're doing something old, you might come across something and go, oh, I've got a bug. I don't know where it is. I can't find it. That delays your development. That's the same with anything that's coming out. You set your best laid plans. You say, this is what we're aiming for. This is what we think we can do based on how long it's taken us to do similar things in the past. And you work towards that. You come across a bug, or you come across an issue, or you come across something where you need a new bit of tech, that delays that progress. And that's all you can do. You just keep working towards that time. So a bit like you said, don't use time, don't go by the times or the dates. Just go by when it's done. But as you're developing, the developers need to have times and dates to give them a target to aim towards. And I think that's the key. We get caught up by the dates they give, which are really there. This is our target date. This is what we think we can achieve. But that can be totally different to what actually is. And I think that really is a difference. So
Yeah.
Chris C has a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the cargo factor will work for the hull C, given that there's talk that auto loading takes 5 hours to fill up a C2, as the hull C only has auto load option?
Again, that patch today, I think it'll start to address some of that stuff, because clearly the times are very high and very stagnant. And now if it's based on SCU, that'll shorten it drastically, because all the hull C generally holds is 32 SCU containers, so that's going to lower the time heaps. And that was what all this griefing was about, and it's obviously why they were always obviously going to address that. I'm going to be honest with you, that's a sign it's getting closer to release. If they're going in and starting to put numbers in, that means, okay, the testing's kind of starting to get complete. We need to start looking at this so we can release it to the normies, so to speak, so they're not complaining, right?
Yep.
And that's the downside to giving content creators that don't understand game development access to Evo, because they're going to start reporting on this sooner.
Yep. So I think part of the issue with the hull C taking 5 hours, well, is that at a large station with multiple people able to help, or is it at a small station where there's not many?
No, that's because it loads one SCU at a time. That's why.
Yep. But even if it is that base amount, and I haven't scaled it. When you start looking at a station that's got extra personnel that you can employ, or it's got extra MPUVs that can be added in to add more, or extra SUVs or SRVs or rafts, to be pulling cargo over and loading. The more vehicles you can employ to load a ship, the quicker it's going to be. If you've got auto loading, are you going to have an option to just go standard auto loading with only minimal crew? Are you going to be able to expedite it by hiring additional? If you can, there are ways you can change that. At the moment, we're just looking at tier 0. So yeah, I think those times are going to change. I don't think that's set in stone. So yeah. Zoran Disco, what do you think of the Foundation Festival referral?
I did have this queued up. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
Where was it? Nope. Yes, it's a Nox. I don't think, from my memory, Algared, I don't ever remember them doing the Nox as a referral. The other thing from price is it's $45, which essentially means if you're referring yourself, you save $5. So yeah, that's a good one in my book.
Yeah. An LTI token. So yeah.
Well, if you referred yourself 10 times, you would save $50. Yeah.
Yeah. You and your referral get a Nox. And you also, if you refer yourself, you also push up your
billing,
your referral and your billing. So you actually don't, because it's to yourself and a different account, but you do add up your referral bonuses, so your number of referrals you've got, so you creep up to the next level.
Mm.
Mystical Moo Cow. That's like Boaty McBoatface. Yep.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on Blockade Runner event? It seems very strange for CIG to say they wanted to make a cargo-focused mission as a game that is so combat heavy, only to force lots of combat in. Yeah, look, that was exactly my frustration yesterday, babe. I think I even said it in our stream.
Mm.
It's great that they're doing an event that is cargo focused, and yet this cargo focused mission is 95% cargo, and that 95% combat, and that's like it's not a cargo mission. But I get you want to include all parts in an event, but it just feels like it's more combat, not really cargo. So that's my thoughts, and I think I made it plain yesterday. But what are yours?
What was the question again? Because I was doing other stuff.
What are your thoughts on the Blockade Runner event that is supposedly cargo focused but is heavily combat oriented?
Well, it's because this combat's still the mainstay in the entire game, and yeah, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
How do you do a cargo only event? I put that out to you as well. Like, what is it, a race to see who can get the most cargo to somewhere in the one at a time? Well, that just means the biggest ship wins, right? So you think it through. There is no really way to do a cargo only event that is that is balanced. It's really hard
I think
to do.
why you do a cargo only event is you do something like supplies needed at.
But then it's not an event. It's just a repetitive cargo mission.
Well, if you do it if it's we've got to make this cargo. Think
it through. Think it through. And I guarantee.
It's a repetitive mission. It's just like kill tasks, but if it's got to get that certain amount in a certain time for the progress to happen,
then it's just a Xenothreat event.
And then it becomes similar to Xenothreat.
Yeah. So there's difficulties doing it. That's my whole point.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm not saying there's not difficulties. I'm just saying the options. But the other thing that I did think of yesterday as we were talking is that by having it as a combat event, especially since we've just really had the release of the new flight model with the being able to target and highlight the components and take them out, it does help develop and fine tune that aspect of combat as well. So I don't think it's necessarily not needed.
Yeah.
But as a cargo event, I would have liked it to feel more cargo orientated than what it seemed to be pushed or explained as. But yeah.
Right. Before we go on, I did want to talk about these because we missed these earlier, right? One quick thing I want to go over though is where was it that I found humorous? I'm trying to remember where I read it. What was it? Pyro's coming. Will you be ready? Yes, I've been ready for 5 years. 5 years I've been waiting. Yeah, it's still coming. Yeah, winter is coming. Pyro is coming. Someone's gonna do a meme of that. I can see it right now. The winter is coming. Pyro is coming. Actually, that's what we should do. Just grab the winter is coming meme and change it to the pyro is coming, and then just add it back at Star Citizen. That'd be funny as fuck. It's been coming for so long, it's gone cold. Right. So, a couple of good packs here for new people. My first thought is hold off till the new ship comes at the end of the year that they always do at AIE, because at least you get LTI with it and stuff like that. But I think there are 3 good ships there, right? The discount helps a lot. You're only getting $5 off on the Aurora. Excuse me, indigestion. I'd say the Cutter's probably my pick of those 3. I would have liked to seen. Is there any others? Let's just see if I'm wrong.
There is a good.
Yeah, but again, out of those 3, they're the ones I'd be taking.
Yeah.
Well, there's no Sully in there. There's no Avenger there. They're the other 2 I would have liked to have seen there.
Of those 3, I'd probably say the Nomad is probably the better buy because it's normally $100 ship, so it's significantly discounted. And although I don't personally like the Nomad, it is a ship with an interior. It's got most of the things that I'd say Avenger has that I like. It's got an open cargo bay, so it's like a ute.
Yeah.
You can put a vehicle into the back section. It is very popular with a lot of people, but it's not one of my favourite ships. But
again,
it's the best one.
You're getting 15% off on the cutter, and you're getting 20% off on the Nomad. So I still think it's the cutter for me personally. Right, the packs, because these are kind of interesting in a different way. I haven't seen kind of packs like this in a while, and I think there's some weird combos. I find it ironic that you brought up the Aurora and the Cutlass, because it essentially means you're getting an Aurora for $10, which is kind of crazy to me. But here's the downside: they're all war bond, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Avenger. This is probably the better one of the ones. I think there's only 4 here, right? But I think this is probably one of the better one from a gameplay perspective, because you're getting a bit of cargo combat and then a dedicated combat. So you're getting a more rounded thing, where when I start to look at ones like this, it's the same. If I go over here with the Rock and the Prospector, it's the same. If I go here and it's the C8R and the Cutlass Red, it's the same. This is the most differential. But yeah, I don't know. They're interesting offerings. I don't know. I haven't seen interesting offerings to new players in a while.
Yeah, well, if you're looking at that, the only downside with the first one, the Cutlass and the Aurora, is the fact that there's no LTI on them.
Yeah.
But you look at that compared to, you get 2 of those ships. You get those 2 ships for 120, or you pick up a F7C Mark II for an obscene amount. And
the other weird thing is they don't tell you what they save, which would have been really nice, because this clearly saves what I think the Aurora there is $25, so you're saving like 15.
Is it AS or an MR?
I don't know, but it's the white and the red, so I'm assuming it's the AS. Then you go along to the Gladys and the Avenger, so that's like what's that? That's $40, so you're saving like 25. You go on to the next one. Is that a rock disc or a normal rock? I can't tell in that small photo. You're getting 60
more info, you can find out.
You're 135 and 65. So you've got some quite substantial savings on some of these, right? So the only downside is that they don't have LTI. If they came with LTI, boy, I could get behind some of those.
They'd be moving off the shelf.
Because again, you could literally say these are packages that have never been offered before, and they're all new packages, so they could justify LTI, because they've done that in the past. Said it's a package that's never been offered. But yeah,
no, 100%. And if you want to check out what's in them, if you click on more info, you'll actually get more detail of what the ships are. So.
Yep. Yeah, well, I'll have a look at let's have a look at that one, because that's the one we need to know. So it is just a standard rock. Which I believe is $55. So,
and you can also do the one with the Aurora and see which Aurora it is.
Oh, that's what you wanted to know, right?
Yeah.
MR.
Yeah.
So
that's actually good, because I think the MR is the $35 one.
No, MR is the
standard.
Yeah, the $35 one. So yeah.
So
not the $25 one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good buy. That's nice.
But again, wait for LTI. Like there's no reason not to get LTI. Hell, get the referral bonus and do that to it. So yeah, I don't know. There's no reason not to wait for things now. Like the game's not out, just wait. I think the only argument to that is that I want to play now, and again, just get the cheapest package you can, join in, and then wait, and then melt that, and then
see what you want.
Then rebuy the new one and upgrade off that or whatever. Unfortunately, that's just the way. It's a bit difficult. So Pete's just saying Twitch. He's saying the Cutlass on its own has better gameplay value, in my opinion. And just put a rock inside it. Absolutely, that would have been a better pack. Absolutely, that's what I mean. Like, you're getting more gameplay for your dollar value. You're not really getting new gameplay with an MR and a Cutlass, but you are getting differentiating gameplay between an Avenger and a Gladius. because you're expanding into that cargo. In fact, if I wanted to make that pack better, instead of the Avenger, I would have had a 315p and a Gladius. That would have been the best one, because then you're getting, the way bigger cargo. Hell, even I would have even taken a Nomad. A Nomad and a Gladius would have been good. 2 ships at relatively the same price point, completely different. Yeah,
completely different avenues to look at. And
Halle would have done it as well. Halle and a Gladius would have done it as well. Yeah.
And I suppose that's the problem with the MR. Now, admittedly, the MR is a small combat ship, but
so it's kind of like you and I keep saying, the marketing department doesn't quite understand their own game. God, I'd love to sit down with those guys one day and just go, hey, can we make a bunch of packs?
What are you guys thinking? Yeah.
Man, the packs that we would make, I reckon they would sell like hotcakes. I don't know, maybe we're tooting our own horn, Algared, but you know what I mean? Like, I honestly reckon you could take 10 to 20 long-term backers, no matter who they are, and the packs that they would come up with would really shine a light that the CIG don't know their own. Like, they're just following data. But again, if all the data you've ever looked at is from your perspective, you're only going to see the best shit you've ever offered, right? You're never going to know what the best shit is to offer, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, the Execute pack, the Board Gamer pack.
The old man Hurston sleep pack.
The old man Hurston. Well, that would be an old man Hurston pack would have.
You order it now and it comes with a free eye mask and an uwu back rub. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
One of these days.
Yeah. Right.
One of these days.
I heard Luna Maria is going to come dressed as an uwu girl to CitizenCon. Yeah, no, that'd be funny. I would laugh my ass off if someone turns up as an uwu girl. Yeah, someone's got to do that. It's gonna be funny.
Don't even know what an uwu girl would look like. They're a figment of your imagination. You've been taking too much Evercrack. You really need to stop. I'll have to talk to Paulie to make sure he's not. No, Execute. I'll talk to Paulie and make sure he's not feeding you any more of that Evercrack. Go into my old man Hurston voice.
Walter Hack says, question, with how bad the servers are currently and mostly have been since the latest patch, do you think they should have at least a week's maintenance implementation instead of only hot fixes? I think it's one of those things that once they start doing Evo patches, things go to shit. So anytime they've got dual servers running, they're going to take it from somewhere and put it somewhere else. And they'll turn around and tell you it doesn't affect it, but it clearly does. You can almost tell exactly when patching has started because the live servers just don't operate the same. And it's always been the case. And it might not look that way, but you can look at data that shows that they just don't run the same. The other part of it is, though, too, is servers are now running generally at a higher FPS rate. They're all up towards 30 FPS now, which is a remarkable improvement. When we were looking at FPS, say 12 months ago, would be 1 or 2 frames a second. So it is drastically increased. And this is a really good sign. But yeah, I don't know. It's the nature of development. I don't know. I sound like a broken record, but yeah, sometimes it's 2 steps back to take 1 step forward. Algared, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it just happens. They'll get there. I think there's pros and cons. If you just do a full cycle and say, right, we're taking it off and we're working on it and then we're going to patch it. That does one thing. Hot fixes also solve problems on the fly and help them.
Do you think did you mention when people complain if the game was down for a week?
Oh, yeah.
It lose their mind.
That's one of the things they don't want to do. It's a bit like, while I said, when I maintain, there will be a time when they do a complete wipe. We also know they don't want to do wipes. They want to avoid doing complete wipes as much as possible. I personally think that's an error. I personally think that's just kowtowing to the loud vocal minority who spend all their time racing to get what they can now before things change. But that's just me. But yeah, so. But I think I know CIG don't want to do as many wipes as I think it's the same thing. It's just that they don't want to take the game down. They want to keep the game running. Then you've got to look at the options they've got. And it may mean that hot fixes become more of a norm, and it might mean that we suffer with lag for a little bit while we're doing those fixes. But yeah. Anyway, MO2 gotchas.
Yeah,
says,
be careful when you read this because it's really broken English.
it is broken
It's
English.
it's hurting my brain to think
that's why I was not paying. I was trying to read that before you asked me what was going on. So I was kind of caught.
And that's why I'm going.
I believe he's asking, will the Mark II MR be able to fight and win against a Redeemer?
Okay, that makes so much more sense when you see be able, because it says beagle.
Yep. It took me a while, and that's why I was kind
be able.
From the last question, I was actually trying to decipher the question and work out what it was being asked. But I think that's what he's asking.
I don't think it will be, and I think, to be honest, what is it, $190 ship versus a $330 ship? You're almost talking double the price. Yeah. And again, you've got size 5s on a Redeemer. I don't even know what the ones are on the Mark II, but I guarantee you they're nowhere near as big as Mark 5s.
I would argue the same thing. It goes back to what Chris used to say about a Constellation Andromeda, or what became a Constellation Andromeda, versus 3 F7C fighters and being able to win 50% of the time, because 3 F7C fighters worked out at roughly close to what you're paying for an Andromeda. It was like 1.5 times the price. So when you did that calculation and you had 3 players in the F7C versus 4 players in the Connie, you wanted to have that balance where they were equal. And so
I've just done a quick Google on the MR, right, which is the most up-gun version of the Zeus. It has 2 size 4 guns, and then it has 2 size 3 turrets.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 size 3s and 2 size 4s. Now, you go on to the Redeemer, it's got 4 size 5s, 2 size 4s, and 2 size 3s. It is completely outgunning.
Yep. Different class of ship. Yeah. The MR, and it was the MR he's asking about, so the Zeus Mark II MR. Different class of ship, different type of ship.
Yeah. You've got dedicated military versus bounty. They can, well, you've only got to look at, take the guns off it, right, so to speak. You've got a whole bunch of cargo in the back. You've got 2 SC of cargo in the Redeemer.
Yeah. So you look at what you're doing, what the role is. You put an MR and say, okay, you've got to move 100 SCU of cargo, and you give both of those ships a role. That's going to give you, the Redeemer is going to be able to do it, but it's going to take 50 runs to be able to do that mission, whereas the MR is going to do it in 1 or 2 runs. So it really is, the right ship for the right job. If you put them in a combat, I don't think the VMR would be able to beat a Redeemer. It might come down to shielding or armor, and that could be a factor that comes in. But at the end of the day, the Redeemer is going to outrange the Mark II. I think the Mark II is better off to run.
Yeah,
that's just me.
But sorry, you reckon the Mark II will be faster, do you?
Well, I'd hope if the Mark II cannot beat a Redeemer in a fight, it can run away. Either whether it warps away or quantums away.
Okay, well, based on what you and I looked at, though, it looks like it's the tanky version of the medium ship, so I don't think it will be that fast, but we'll wait and see.
But if the Redeemer's a tanky version as well, then... But if you can't go toe-to-toe, you've got to be... It doesn't have to be fast, it just has to be faster than the Redeemer. Well, it's a bit like the old...
Sometimes they're just outclassed. You don't pick a fight, you just don't pick a fight, you can't win. If you would take 2 MRs, right? So 6 people versus, say, 3, that starts to become a different story, right?
But I think in some cases it's a bit like the old, a bear's chasing you. If a bear's chasing both of us, I've only got to be faster than you. It's...
Oh, I don't have to be faster than you. I just trip you, and then I am faster than you. That's how it works. Yeah.
I put my sneakers on and run faster than you.
Yeah.
Although, if it ever gets to that, I'm screwed because I don't run. But yeah.
It's all good.
But it's that type. I think it's that type of thing. I'd like to think that every ship has a chance can survive or get away, and it's if you see it and run straight away, then you get away. If you try and fight and then I've got to run away, I think you're dead. But
Yeah.
it's that type of thing. So yeah. Same persons, slightly quit. Will there be org bases hangars that are more than extra large pads, for example? Yes, I expect there will be.
Well, the base building, I think that's kind of a given, and I think the only other thing we've really heard about org hangars goes way back to like 2014, where they talked about the upside down step pyramid hangar. But I do think, again, knowing bases are going to be a thing, if they don't do hangars or orgs within a city, you could always do your own inner base. So
Yep.
I think no matter which way you cut it, there eventually will be some form of org bases and hangars.
Yep. I'm kind of getting distracted by the chat in YouTube, and I can't.
Yeah, they're having a debate about DLC versus
Yeah,
a
I did
unreleased
notice that,
game.
and it's kind of
Yeah.
it's too detailed to be able to give it attention. While
Again,
we're paying attention to our questions. So
real quick, if you're reading the YouTube chat, they're basically just talking about the merits of a game that's out versus a game that has been released, versus a publisher that's also a pre-established with lots of money and stuff like that, versus CIG that don't have as much money. There are fors and against across the board, right?
yep.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
From my perspective, a bigger, uglier company should be able to do more, but I don't think they do enough. I think that was the point I was trying to make. Where
Yep. No, I
CIG
agree.
are actually quite a very small company if you do the math, and I think they do a lot more than they're passionate. And yes, they do have some weird marketing practices, as most companies do, but you've got to fund the game somehow. And again, you choose to buy a ship. You don't. All you need is that $45 starter package. You don't
Yep.
need anything else than
You
that.
don't have to buy anything else.
And again, that's $45. It's not 70. It is not a full price game.
Yep.
So yeah.
So yes, we are a $45 game, and then there's a whole pile of DLC we can buy. And
Again,
and unlike other games, like realistically, if I think about Star Citizen versus a game where I've got to buy, if I go back to Dark Age of Camelot, if I didn't buy the download, the expansion DLC, I couldn't play in that area. If I only have an Aurora or a Mustang, I can still go and play in the areas where everything else is. I can still join someone else's ship. So in Star Citizen, it's certainly different, but and I know the discussion is more general, but I can see that there's a difference just in the DLC and certainly in Star Citizen's model. But and I may have missed the essence of the discussion on YouTube, and I apologise if I have.
Yeah.
Anyway, happy Arbol.
I had something to say, but you made me forget now. Anyway, keep going.
Happy Arbol. Well, if you remember it, just say. Happy Arbol has a question. As CIG has acknowledged they don't want to stop you from sticking cargo in places on your ships that don't use a grid, do you think the Liberator could have excessive SCU inside and on top?
So that would be going back to force reactions and unsecured cargo. So I'll let you tell me.
Yeah. So basically, if you don't have your cargo secured, or it's not on a cargo grid, and you have rapid movements, that cargo will shift around, and you risk damaging the internals of a ship. You risk damaging components that are in internals. You risk puncturing the hull. So yeah, you risk catastrophic failure. So do so at your own risk would be my advice.
And I'd probably, to add to that, say that's probably something that's coming sooner rather than later. Once they get this kind of last part of cargo going, I think that's where you'd start to see the force reactions after that when you're aggroed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the force reactions come in when they get their fire propagation system working and the damage to components working.
Makes sense to me.
Because all of those things work together. You've got the ship, the cargo being thrown around the ship, hitting a component, causing a fire, causing damage where you've got to run around and do. So I could see all of that kind of coming in together. But I think that type of stuff is coming.
I have to really agree with you, Algared, because you know the cargo that you're carrying is really, really hot, and those Uwu girls will start fires. They are so hot they will start fires. So,
That's right. And Evercrack is an alcohol, so
it's just keep compensating. You can call it whatever you want. We all know, Algared, what you keep in those boxes. Life cargo. Yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah.
What can I say? We have climate control conditions for a reason.
Yeah. But no, seriously though, cargo probably will start some of the fires too. So
yeah. Oz veteran.
Hey, I know that guy. That's Elliot.
Oh well,
he's on Twitch. Hey Elliot, nice to see you, bro.
So Oz veteran or Elliot says, why is Star Citizen website? Why is the Star Citizen website so slow to use and download? And when you select the ships or paint, it doesn't show anything. My computer is a beast. Because.
So he's talking about paints on the websites? Is that what he's talking about?
Yep, looks like it. Ships, the website loads slowly. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's while they're doing something in the background. Sometimes it
can be getting hammered as well. There's just lots of people there, especially if like there's an event like the Foundation Festival on. There's probably a lot of new people there at the moment looking at stuff.
Yep, because there's a free fly, I do believe. So free fly, lots of people. That means the site gets a lot of.
Why the servers are running worse as well, because there's more people on it than normal. Yeah.
Yep. So all of those, pick your reason. Pick your reason.
Yeah.
It could be that you need to actually reboot your computer. I know Execute goes through that at times. I know he's got a beast of a computer, and at times he goes, "Oh crap,
I got to restart." I have these weird errors at the moment. If I share my screen, Discord crashes, so I've got to restart my PC. So it just happens.
So it could be any of the above. So, Pete.
Actually, I'll chuck a comment out to Elliot. We noticed that the on the Spectrum, they where is it? I gotta pull it back up now. They added the what do you call it? The cargo loading time now based on box sizes of a SCU. So yeah, there's obviously been a few complaints about that one, Elliot. My issue has actually been the cargo grid stuff. So yeah, and I can't imagine what it's like for you sitting on the other end watching Avocado people getting frustrated not being able to do the cargo hauling missions. So yeah. Bit of feedback, but yeah, I do see it improving. So yeah, good luck to you. And it's my first time in Evo, so I'm kind of experiencing it. It's reminding me of my old dev days, but yeah.
So Pisspoor Pete has a question. Having played the game a little, this is the one you answered earlier.
Yeah, so we can skip that one.
I'll skip that one. Chris, I think I know what. I'll skip that one.
Skip that one.
Outpost fuses, hinting at possibly, which is, I think we discussed that when you pulled up the thing.
Well, no, he's saying outpost fuses hinting at possible puzzle gameplay and resource management. Yes, we hinted at the resource management, but yeah, definitely, I think it's a part of the puzzle. Yeah, because you can. Well, I can see a mission right now. You turn up to somewhere, and it doesn't work. So the mission is actually to go back to town and buy a fuse, or
get the right fuse.
Were you savvy enough to just rip one out of your ship temporarily and put it in there?
Or was it able to change a fuse around so that it opens the doors and turns the guns off but opens the doors, or powers the guns but turns off, if you turn off the right thing, or so I could see that type of thing being there as well. But yeah.
Well, Elliot's sitting there in chat. He's the one that's got to come up with all these crazy ideas for missions. So he'd be sitting there running through in his head trying to figure out all these different crazy things, and I have no doubt he's coming up with some weird, cool puzzles for people to try out. So we'll see how it goes.
He's listening to see if he gets a glimpse of an idea that he can use.
Yeah. Pisspoor Beats cracking the whip on Twitch, going, "Come on, Elliot, get into those missions, get onto it."
Krivicus says, do you think we will ever get personal hangars in alternative locations such as space stations or asteroids, or will it only be starter bases?
Well, I'll go back to the VFG industrial hangar. Algared, I'll let you talk about that one.
Yeah, look, I think, I know you were saying you'd notice the well, VFG industrial hangar is a asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was original starting hangar, or sold as an original starting hangar.
Yep.
I think that's gone by the board as starting hangars at the moment. But I think if you started in Levski, when Levski's a starting hangar, you'll have an industrial hangar.
Yep.
I think you'll be able to buy different hangars in different locations, and they'll be your personal hangars.
Yep.
So I think in answer to that question, will you be able to have personal hangars? Yes. Will you be able to have all your stuff transferred there eventually you'll have to pay transfer fees?
Yep.
How long will it take? Don't know.
I just had a thought too, Algared. What if the VFG was kind of like the outpost hangars? Because it would like the cut into the ground type look as well.
Yeah, could also be cut into the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have an outpost hangar that's kind of cut into the ground, and because if it's cut into the ground and then you've got the opening like that. Yeah. It's different view of the outpost hangar. Yeah. Well, you look at the now you said that, you look at the prison.
Yep.
You know, that is basically a huge cave, and you've got those same problems of, you know, you remember the outpost hangar had the levels and you had the rocks going underneath and the empty. You've got exactly that kind of structure within the living area or platform for the prison.
Yep. It would work for them as well. So, yeah.
So 100% I could see those industrial hangars being underground cave hangars.
Just a
Hadn't
thought.
even thought of that until
it just kind of came because I connected what we were saying earlier, and I just kind of went, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, well, like you said, I hadn't thought of it until you said it. I went, oh, yeah.
Kind of makes logical sense, doesn't it?
It's logical, yeah. It works.
Plus, you could still have the
actual asteroid.
Yeah, well, because what is an asteroid? It's just a different container. We've talked about this before. So essentially, you know, a space station's a container, a planet's a container, an asteroid's a container. It's just different things to hold them in. And once you kind of put the room system over the top of it, you can kind of see. One of the other things I'm surprised they haven't talked about this actually, right? Was in Evo, and I said this to you. I went to a station and I wasn't put in an AeroView hangar. I was put in a Safeland hangar. So now we're starting to see the rollout of not just AeroView, but Safeland. And then I said to you, does that mean the last one to ring off the rank would be VFG and Revel in York? And Revel in York's probably the most different of any of them. But that's just really interesting. All that old stuff is becoming new again. Are they going to go back to possibly selling hangars as well? Like, it's really interesting, I find. So yeah.
Yep, and it goes back to something we said ages ago. They'd start off with the Safeland or the AeroView.
Yeah,
we've got the AeroView look, and then once they've got that down pat and worked out, they'll start bringing out another variant, putting them in, and then I was raising the question: will that be, does that mean that they're just doing it on places that poor they've got that, or are they going to do it by ship size, or and so it raises a whole host of questions, I think. But yeah, it's nice to see that we're seeing that variation of hangars come in as we thought or expected. So yeah. Next question is by Mystical Moo Cow again, and following up with my earlier question. Well, doesn't actually say that, but following up with his earlier question, an event could be changed where the AI are blocking a station, preventing cargo from reaching the siege. The goal would be run cargo into the station. Of course, there is a risk of getting shot on the way in. You yourself are not forced into fighting. They could allow combat-focused players to control the killing of blockade. And I think that's kind of what they've hinted at in the past. And I think that's also part of the idea of, that was also part of the idea of Xenothreat. You had to, load the cargo and then defend against the ships that were going to try and stop you. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah.
I
don't know what to say to that because we've talked about it like twice now. So yeah,
I think we've talked about it. I think we've done it to death. But I think 100%. It gives different options to the way they do it. I think it's kind of still. I think the problem with and I don't know how the blockade mission is going to be, but the way it seemed to be talked about was that it was a cargo mission, but the way it was described was it was 95% combat.
Yeah,
and that was I think the problem that Mr. Mumukau's got. It's the problem I had is that the fact that this cargo mission is so combat focused, and it's just it might just be the way it was described.
It's also cool though because it actually leans more into the core gameplay loop, which is something valuable being protected. It's essentially like the pirates are being played by the AI, so I think it's kind of cool, right? When eventually that, we've talked about events, Algared, but one of the things we didn't talk about is that event. We've seen it with some of the, it wasn't Xenothreat, it was the other one, where some players were choosing to play the bad side.
Yep. For the Siege of Orison.
Yeah. No, not Orison. The one where you had to go to the area and protect the ships, but people would turn up and try and destroy the ships.
All right. Yep.
I can't remember the name of it. But someone will let it know in chat. I've just forgotten what it's called. But again, with this cargo one, what you could have done is, why couldn't you have the pirate people trying to say take it back to Grimhex or whatever, and they're trying to steal it for their own nefarious gains, So it could have been all of a sudden it's two sides fighting over a neutral party.
The question I had, one question I did get after watching it as I was thinking about it was, what reason do the pirates have for still blockading the station? Because they've already taken the loot.
Wasn't it they were trying to? Yeah, they took the. Yeah,
they'd already taken the loot and the ships are already off, and they're still blockading.
Aren't they buying time for their ships to get away or something though? I thought they said in the video. So their ships can get away with the loot?
Yeah, but the station's already blockaded and blocked and shot to pieces. And you're coming to break the blockade.
Look, Algared, don't ask questions. Just consume. Hey, Algared, don't ask questions. Just consume product and then consume next product, Algared. You know how this goes.
And the thing is, you're capturing the cargo back and trying to get it back to the station, which is blockaded by the pirates who are trying to buy time so that others can get away. There's something that just doesn't seem to gel or make sense for me in that, and I wouldn't mind having.
I'll put this back to Elliot that's in Twitch chat. I think he's just found a hole in your logical lore there, Elliot. He's destroyed it.
So I'd really like you to be able to explain that. And I was thinking about that yesterday as it was being discussed, and why are the pirates still blockading the station when they've already ripped off the stuff and the ship's already going away? And because you're only blockading me taking your ships, the cargo from the ship that you've stolen, and trying to bring it back. It doesn't make sense. It's to me, it's
Again, they make the gameplay first and then try and make a story to fit it, and sometimes it doesn't work. So
Yep.
All right, we're down to we've got two questions. All right, the Aussie Viking. Nice to see you, mate. Hello, Aussie.
And the Aussie Viking says, if you buy a pack with 2 ships, then these are an upgradable chassis. Yes, 100%. Both ships in the pack can be upgraded.
He's saying they're unupgradable though, so he's not correct. He's incorrect.
Oh, no. Yes, they are upgradable. Both chassis can be upgraded, just like I can upgrade every ship in every one of my packs.
I think the fact that kind of comes back to what we were saying though, Algared, is because these are in a pack, right? You are saving money, but you're losing LTI, and then you're getting 2 ships that don't have LTI. It's very easy now to get an LTI, use Warbond CCUs, and you would beat these savings, especially if you're going to bigger ships, right?
Now, the downside of doing both chassis in that pack are upgradable. The downside is once you upgrade them, if you make a mistake on the second ship, you've upgraded the first one, you're happy, you're upgrading the second one, you make a mistake and you go, I want to undo it. When you undo it by either melting it and buying it back, you actually have to start again on both ships. And that's the problem with packages.
That's the whole reason I hate them.
But both ships in that package are upgradable. 100%.
I just avoid packs because they create complications. I would say the smaller a pack, the less problems. But again, if they don't have LTI, and again, we haven't really seen a small. I don't know. I have to think back. I actually can't think of the last time we really saw a small package that had LTI, and it would be quite a number of years. And I think the last one would have been about $600. So it's not exactly
The
cheap.
last one, I believe, was the last one I can recall was the. I think there were two. There was one with the cat and the dragonfly,
Yep, that was one.
and the other one that I remember is the BMM and the Defender.
Yes. So that's how far back. Well, that's what, like 4 years ago at least, more than.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's,
And the beauty of both of those is that the LTI gave LTI on a Caterpillar,
Yep.
and an LTI on a BMM.
Yeah. Look, the other thing is, just on this whole Foundation Festival itself, you can use it as its own example. There is a free referral there if you can get it. That's worth $45. That is more than a saving than almost any of the packages we've seen down the bottom.
So you buy an alternate account. You make yourself a referral on that account. Yes, it means you've got a second account.
Yep.
But then you both packs get the referral, and so you could then upgrade both of those ships into other things you want.
But you're essentially getting yourself $40 off for $40 that you can send to yourself anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the better way to do it. If you know the tricks, things like the packages and stuff like that become really irrelevant really, really, really quickly.
Yeah.
I think the biggest saving we saw was on this one, and again, it's still only like $25 to $30, where that's a $45 ship that you can essentially get for free. You've just got to send the $40 yourself, and it takes a month. So if you're happy to put in the time, it works out heaps cheaper. And again, what's that? $45.40. That's what, $95. There's your Nomad, or whatever package you're going to buy anyway. So yeah, and you'll have LTI on it, which you don't have LTI, but you'd still need a game package. So that's another problem.
So Rudias has a question.
Last question, by the way.
Last question. And it's I think it's a fairly good one on the surface, but I think there's an easy answer for it. He says, how viable will ships like the Carrack and Reclaimer be with no cargo doors in the next patch? And I think they'll still be viable. You'll just use automatic loading.
Yep.
So
100%. I think automatic loading is in there very specifically for those people that just don't want to play that gameplay. And
or for ships where you can't do it.
Well, I also, how do I put this? I think some people are just not going to want to do it. I think there will be a cost. I don't think, I'm going to be honest, maybe initially they'll make it bigger to try and force people to test it. But I think when the final game comes around, I don't think the cost will be exorbitant to load your cargo, purely based on the fact that they kind of going to want you to play the game, and some people are going to not want to do the cargo part of it. The other thing that I found interesting that I do want to bring up real quick is on the elevators going up and down, there is a cost thing. So they're actually going to charge you for every time you go up and down on the elevator. So again, you're going to want to be pretty efficient.
There's also, like, if you're loading stuff certainly into the Carrack, you can actually take cargo in through the doors and then access the cargo balcony, I think, or the rooms, and I think you can get into the cargo compartments from your thing. You just can't drop a cargo pod down and open it up and load it very easily. And I think with the Reclaimer, you can do the same thing. Take the lift up to the cargo area and put cargo in, but then it's a very time-consuming manual task. So, but the easy way, if you can't access the cargo doors, the easier way is just to auto load.
Sorry, specifically, what are the ships that you think that's going to be on? I know the whole series is external, but what I'm trying to think of a ship that you can't load.
The two ships he's got listed are the Carrack, because the Carrack doors, the Carrack cargo containers are stuck up.
Yep, I'll give you that one. That's temporary. Yep. Okay, next one.
But I think you could even, at the moment, carry cargo through the.
100% agree with you on that one.
The garage into the cargo component and then use a tractor beam to lower it down.
But what a nightmare!
And the other ship,
yep,
it would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And the other ship is a Reclaimer. which again, you've got the big bottom lift that drops down. You could go up there, go up to the cargo level.
That's how it's meant. That's how it's meant to be done. That's why the lift itself has a cargo grid on it.
So I think both of those ships that you've got there, is
again,
just going to be a nightmare.
Both those ships, though, we know have extra work to be done to them. And you can tell because the Reclaimer has a different size docking collar. We also know that you don't have the armor stuff on the Carrack. So again, they're both ships now that are falling into legacy mode that have to be updated.
We also know the Carrack in particular certainly has the cargo pods that drop down.
Yep.
And so that's it. But the Reclaimer's always supposed to use the lift. There's not supposed to be a separate thing.
Yep.
You know, they've used that cargo
lift. But
again,
they're not going back to make that work because they know when they update the ship, they'll have to do it all again. Cup for the horse thing. So, they're not going to do something they've got to redo again. Yeah.
So even though I think you may or may not be able to use them now, you can still use automatic loading. So I don't think it becomes a problem. So,
yeah.
T-Jack says, why not just add a ramp-like doors to each side of the cargo modules on the cargo pods? Because they don't want to. Because
what was that? Sorry.
Yeah.
Why not just add?
Why not add?
Oh, hang on, I can read for myself. Why not just? Because if you actually look at the original design, they have I think it's either drop down or slide down doors on the You're talking about the Carrack, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was either drop or slide down doors.
Yeah.
And the original concepts that other people have done is the ends drop off, so you can put a vehicle in. Again,
there was certainly one where John Cruise said they could get their ballista into a Carrack if they made it a single pod. The other thing with the Carrack pods is those modules. So there are supposed to be different options for different types of rooms that you could add. So, but it has the same problem that the Caterpillar has with its modules at the moment. So,
I literally only saw a picture of this the other day, and I'm trying to find it. But yeah, Google search, and I cannot find it. But
that is also our last question. So, so if you kill the bot, that would mean that we'll have kind of finished our questions at 9:05.
Yep.
Which means we did very well.
Yeah, almost right on time.
Yeah.
All right, I'll find someone to raid really quickly on Twitch. And what the hell happened there? Oh my god, my mouse just went nuts. All right, now it's working.
Yeah, T-Jack, it just needs to be implemented. They just haven't finished the Carrack.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. So yeah.
Yeah. Right. Is Paul doing anything yet? We could have done him on YouTube as well. Let's have a look who's doing the usual thing. What do we got here? Who we got? Right. Hey, look, that's our face, Algared. That's us. I think the only person I can see that I know is Yo-Yo Meg. And I don't really want to read a bigger person, so yeah, we'll do Yo-Yo Meg. Why not? Give her a bit of a buff. Tell her I like her beanie, and would she like an Inforunners beanie? Maybe we should. What do you reckon? I got an Inforunners beanie. I reckon that'd fit your head. You don't look like a beanie wearer to me personally.
No. I have worn beanies in the past in winter when it's really cold, and I've just had a chrome dome. But yeah.
Okay.
And thanks for those couple who said good stream. So Rudias, Lena Maria, Coyote.
It's always going to be quieter in those downtime, guys. So as I said at the start of the stream and a few times throughout it, if you're here in these quieter times, you are the more hardcore people. So yeah, we'll get there. Don't you worry. Just get through it. It's a hard time, but we'll get through it. All right. Twitch said goodbye to YouTube. YouTube said goodbye to Twitch. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Have fun in the castle.
And they're off to Yo-Yo Meg. If you're on YouTube, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell if you want to see every video that we put out. And thank you to the people that went that extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. With that,
all those few who did the super chats, always appreciate, always loved, but never expected or demanded, just like at the back, the guys who do Patreon or otherwise.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, as you were saying,
he's been old man Hurston himself.
He's been the evil executor. Execute.
The lover of uwu girls.
Yes.
All right.
We're out of here. Take care. God bless.
See you, citizens.